Token brother brought the flow. Now it's time for the show. Let's go.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Revolver Live, the gaming podcast that says forget the past. The future belongs to the nerds. I'm the Beastly Gamer. Today I'm joined by my three amazing co-hosts, which we spent quite a bit of time together this week. Gary Diaz, how you feeling, my friend?
I am feeling under the weather. I'm drinking from the bottle, so please go gentle on me.
I wanted to switch it up and yeah, Gary, what's in the bottle?
It's a mixture of chesty mentholated cough syrup and pure liquid testosterone, so I'll be getting more and more masculine as the show goes on.
Watch that beard by the end of the show. Ryan Wilson, what's going on, sir? How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. Recovering from the grind. Still at it on D2. It's hard to get away from that.
I haven't felt this kind of grind before in my life, to be totally honest with you guys, and I really appreciate all the help you guys have gifted me this week. It's been a very special time for me as a gamer. Briar Rabbit, the king of all things Destiny, and now Destiny 2. How you doing, my friend? I bet you are, man. You know what's coming next. The crash. The crash is coming next. You're going to get out of the car and stop. You're going to walk toward the door and black out. You're going to wake up in the driveway. Good to see you guys. Revolver Live is a gaming podcast with 6 revolving topics. Become a part of the show by submitting your topic for consideration at revolvergamescast@gmail.com. That's revolvergamescast@gmail.com. We go live every Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Briar Rabbit. That's twitch.tv/Briar Rabbit. The video is then shared on YouTube at Briar Rabbit's YouTube channel and my channel, Beastly Gamer. If you're unable to see the live feed or video formats, be sure to check us out in podcast form on Podbean, iTunes, or your favorite podcast service provider. And with that said, welcome to Revolver Live, episode 9. What's going on, fellas?
Yo, Beastly, you played Trials of the Nine for the first time, right? You never got around to Trials of Osiris. No matter how much I talked about it in Destiny 1, you never got around to it. But now you've tried it. You tried Trials of the Nine last night. What'd you think, man?
Oh, man.
Honest opinion here.
You know what? It's a very tactical and skill-based portion of the game. As someone who's been doing 99% of PvE, going into the Crucible and then going into Trials of the Nine is a different ballpark altogether. You got to be prepared, you got to be cautious, and you got to have a good shot and a weapon that can get the job done. It's very, very tactical, and you've got to work as a team. And to me, that really it adds so much more to the experience that I've been having so far. I played it with my wife this morning. She played Trials of the Nine for the first time. We got destroyed, but we had a great time doing it, right? Last night, we actually played, and we got 5 wins in a row. And that was a euphoric moment for me because, like you said, I never played Trials of Osiris. You know what? I never even upgraded a weapon in the original Destiny 1. I just never learned the lore. I never really cared. For some reason, this game for me is a different type of animal than Destiny 1 was. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to do as much as I can. And going to the Trials of the Nine with you guys, it was a gift. I appreciate it, man. And I can't wait to get back in there with you guys. Gary, I played with you briefly for about 10 minutes yesterday, and you had to bounce. It was late. So hopefully this week we can keep your ass up, a little bit later and play some to the beast.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't want to be rude. I saw your KD at the end of the game, and it was just like,
go. That PV penis was not big enough for Gary.
I can make you feel better. My KD on this is way better, Gary.
And now we'll never play again. So,
there we go. Dick joke, SNES portable. Out
the
of
Yobo.
The way. Yobo reference out of the way.
Yeah, Briar. Trials of the Nine was something I'd never experienced before. I'm looking forward to trying the raid. I can't wait to hear what you guys did there. But that's something that I saw. And, of course, we went through 2 areas of getting loot after we completed 5 consecutive matches. I want to do 7 matches. I want to, that's something for me to shoot toward. Even getting 5 was very uplifting, and I felt like we reached some type of precipice. And to know that there's something even further than that, now I got something I want to do over and over again. There is a particular weapon that you must use in this mode that I saw 90% of our opponents using, which is the Mida multi-tool. And I went in there with Sweet Business, which is my exotic auto rifle, and I thought it was going to deliver the business, but the store got closed because the multi-tool completely obliterated me before I had a chance to even get a few rounds off. So I'm looking forward to, getting my character in order, getting the weapons I need, and getting back in there. But again, I really appreciate you and Wilson very much for walking me through that and teaching me the ropes yesterday.
Hey, man, you did good, dude. It was a lot of fun. Like you said, Mida multi-tool is a fantastic weapon for that game mode. You get a lot of utilities from it. You get boosted agility, you get radar when you're aiming down sights, and an amazing super fast reload. I mean, the gun it reloads super quick. It allows you to put shots down range really fast, and it's got high caliber rounds in it, which delivers a lot of flinch. A lot of those sights on that map are long and perfect for that scout rifle range. Another thing, too, is that people tend to play a little bit more passive, meaning that they're going to group up and team shot until they get a body, and then they're going to push. So the Mida multi-tool is perfect for that, and then you push with your secondary and clean up the rest. No, man, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad you had a chance. Yeah. I'm glad you had a chance to jump in, dude, and experience it, because it is vastly different from the Trials experience that we had in Destiny 1. It was Trials of Osiris. Now it's Trials of the Nine. And it is a completely different beast. We had a lot of fun. Managed to secure a flawless myself. Gary, Briar, I know you guys did as well. How did you guys feel about that card? Like did it feel as satisfying as it did in Destiny 1, or?
I think I've hit up this one myself. I've got some reservations about the game mode. I played a couple of flawless. I'm hoping to get my 3rd in before the end of the weekend on my next character. And from someone that's a long-time Trials player and someone that played a lot of Trials in Destiny 1, I don't know what it is that I can't quite put my finger on, but I think it might be the team dynamic, but there's just less of those hero moments where you can't carry a team as effectively as you could previously. So, if it's that 1v3 situation that you're quite often in classic Destiny, unless you've got power ammo and a very inexperienced team that are going to let you utilize that power ammo, it's very difficult to clutch those scenarios, especially with it being now an objective game mode. So from my perspective, I feel like it's a very satisfying mode if you've got a cohesive team that you work well with and a team that you enjoy playing with. But if you're the type of player that likes to lone wolf it and likes to, have these moments of real clutch, I didn't find as many of those. What's your view on that, Brian? Did you get the same thing?
I have a similar view. I find that with Destiny PvP overall, Destiny 2 PvP overall, the lone wolf kind of play style is really just not as effective as it was in Destiny 1. I mean, you can still do it, especially if you're up against a weak team. You can still do it, and all of a sudden you can pull flanks and just be mowing through people. But when you're playing a team that seems to be of the same skill level as you definitely want to be hip to hip with your teammates, team firing, going behind cover, letting your other teammates come out of cover and continue firing for you. But yeah, the lone wolf playstyle in Destiny 2 PvP in general, I find it's much harder to pull off. The supers don't feel as strong. The grenades aren't as strong. It's really just about gunfights. And if you're getting shot at by 2 people, you're at a major disadvantage because you can't just toss a grenade at one of them and start shooting the other. You really have to actually shoot everybody.
I'm finding that even the.
Go ahead, Gary.
Sorry. I was going to say even the power ammo, which a lot of people are saying, well, you're meant to make plays with the power. It's a temporal advantage and something that you use. The problem is where it's been leveled down to, I wouldn't say dumbed down, that's the wrong word, but like at least made so transparent. There's no stealth there. So if I pick up a shotgun, everyone knows I've got a shotgun. So if the guys know what they're doing, they'll just stay away from every single corner and my power's nullified. Same way if I pull a sniper, they can just camp the objective and stay out of sniper lanes. And again, my power's completely nullified. And then all they can do is come around a corner, 2 people at once. And as you say, a 2v1 is frankly impossible with a primary versus 2 other primaries, so long as you're equal skill leveled individuals. So yeah, my concern of it on the long term is it's going to be more about how effective your team is and not how good a trials player you are. So your moment to moment experience is going to base on that.
I will say the maps seem to make a difference there too. Like some maps lend themselves to lone wolfing a little more. What's the map that we had in the PC beta that was kind of like concentric circles with
Javelin
points in it?
Yeah, Javelin.
That one seems to me I'm able to move around that map more freely without having a teammate by my side, because if I do get into trouble, I can easily duck out and get to cover. And teams seem to split up more on that map because there's so many corners. It's an easier map to kind of run around solo on than something like the Trials map this week, which had a ton of very long lines of sight, big open areas. Like if you popped into a doorway, you very well could see 4 Midas just absolutely, pointing right at your direction. And if they all team shotted you at the same time, I mean, you were down instantly. Map design has a little bit to do with that too, I think.
I saw a lot of what you guys are talking about for sure. I feel like, the whole lone wolf thing is definitely taking a backseat as well, but there was definitely some clutch rounds. And yeah, a few of them were like Gary said, you get power ammo and the other team didn't respect it, or they're forced to push to you planting the bomb. You know what I mean? So you can kind of plan it out that way. Like, okay, if you're going to avoid me, make them come to you with power ammo, make them come to the objective. I feel like the clutch is, it's not as direct as it was before, where a guy makes a flank and wipes out 3 people. It's more of somebody makes a flank, all 4 guys turn on that one guy, he communicates to his team that all 4 of them are on them, and it's almost like a leapfrog thing. Like you're almost kind of leapfrogging, where if you do pull a flank and everyone's on you, the rest of your team has to push up, put forward. The pressure on them, they turn around on you. It's like a trickle down. And it's the same thing when you're both watching the same corner. You get shots on a guy, you tuck back in as your buddy's coming out and stuff. But I feel like the clutches are less like obvious. You know what I mean? Like because someone made that flank and got the entire team to look the other way for even 2 seconds, allowed your team, the rest of your team, to get the angle. So I just don't feel like the clutches are as obvious as they were before, where you grab a sniper and, wreck people. But
the game mode, though, you can kind of clutch because the game mode is an objective style game mode. There are a couple of times where I or a teammate, they would just work the objective in a way that caused a win where they were significantly outgunned. It was a 1v3, a 1v4, but they worked that objective, they set a bomb, and they were able to hold off the enemy team long enough for that bomb to go off. Or, in reverse, they were able to go defuse that bomb even though they were massively outgunned. And
it's like a passive clutch.
That felt really good. So the clutch comes in a different way. It's not necessarily wiping out the enemy team, but you actually do win the game anyway. And because it is an objective game mode, like that is now possible. What did you guys think of the change to Countdown? Do you like having an objective in Trials of the 9?
Yeah, I thought it was going to play really slow at first, but it didn't. It actually played out pretty fast.
I feel like it's there's a couple of issues that I had, and I think it's map as well. I feel like Temple and Keyhole were too far away from each other. So if one was planted somewhere else, you almost didn't have time to get there. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there was then a mad rush and you're at a massive disadvantage. I understand it's part of the game mode there, but I think that's just a map design thing. I think if you had a smaller map and the zones were a bit closer together, then there'd be a bit more of a tactical thing around planting rather than, oh, they're not here, quickly plant, which was a bit of an issue. But I mean, aside from that, the other thing that I really, really wanted to bring up and see what you guys' thoughts are is the rewards. So reward-wise, Destiny 1 was all about you had to get the 7 wins. You had to get to the lighthouse because it was all or bust. You got your
They changed
stuff.
that, though, even in Destiny 1.
To an extent, but I mean, if you wanted your adept weaponry, that was the only way you were getting it, wasn't it, out of the lighthouse loot chest? From what I can understand, the only difference between 7 and 0 and 7 and 1 is a class item and a class item or a piece of arms, like one piece of armor that you can get. Even if you get 1 win, and then 4 or 5 losses, you can potentially still get all the same weaponry that someone can get who's gone fully flawless. The only advantage is 1 piece of armor and the cosmetic emblems. Do you feel that, and bear in mind this is as good as it's going to get, so the raid we're going to have hit prestige mode and other harder variants. This is as hard as Trials is ever going to be and as rewarding as Trials is ever going to be. Are you guys happy with that now and definitely moving forward?
I feel you, man. I kind of said the same thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not diminishing what, like, other people going flawless and stuff like that. But this sense of accomplishment when we did get done with our flawless card, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, you know, you're ascending to the higher tiers to get more loot. And as you go up, you can eventually go to the final area to get what Gary was talking about. It's like a pair of arms or a class item. But yeah, I was thinking about it and I was like, man, the only thing that I think I'm missing is the rocket launcher, the fusion, and the hand cannon. So once I get those, what do I go for? You know what I mean? Like, other than just the experience of, hey, we went flawless. Before, there was, I want to collect every adept weapon because it had a faster aim down sight time. You know what I mean? Like, they could have just they could even made the weapons for when you go flawless have a different shader that you can only get by going flawless, and I would have been okay with that. You know what I mean? Doesn't even have to have a perk for it to be adept, in my opinion. Just something like the emblem's cool. I don't know, man. I don't want to sound ungrateful or diminish what people are doing or anything like that, because there's definitely some cards where I got my ass kicked. You know what I mean? And it definitely felt like I had to work for it. You know, that we had to work for it. So I don't know, like it's cool and all because it gives everybody access to the same rewards and stuff. So I'm kind of like 50-50 on it.
I like that everybody gets rewards. Like, I think that's actually really, really cool because it encourages more people to get into Trials of the Nine. I don't feel forced to get a flawless card to feel rewarded for my time in Trials of the Nine, which I think is a good thing. But I would have liked to see an adept version of the weapons and armor that are only available if you do get a flawless card, because then there is another step, right? There is a reason to really shoot for that 7-0. Whereas right now, yeah, you know, like Wilson was saying, I have a lot of the stuff already.
Yeah.
You know, the DLC is a long ways away. Will the DLC have a refresh for Trials of the Nine armor and weapons? I don't know. You know, in the past, we spent a year, I think, with the original Trials stuff, or no, spent like 3 months with it was over a year with the original Trials stuff.
Yeah.
And then they refreshed it for another year, right? They refreshed it at Rise of Iron?
Yeah. It was. There's been three different loot pools for Trials of Osiris.
I mean, the concerns that I'm hearing from watching streamers who are trial streamers, and not so much from their commercial business, but just from the mode and what they've liked about it. They like the mode, they like how it plays. The concept of the Lighthouse, though, if you compare it to what they've done for PvE, every PvE mode has a harder variant that you can go onto. So you've got the Strikes, where you can move on to the Nightfall, and then the Prestige Nightfall. So that's something to strive for and be, you know, if you are an elite player, you can move to there. The Raid is going to have the Prestige Raid. Trials itself seems to have Flawless, which is, you know, obviously, as you say, Wilson, not trying to diminish it, something that you achieve, but there's only one tier of achieving it. So there's no Prestige Flawless. You can't earn anything additional, be it cosmetic or not.
I would argue that you wait about 4 months and there probably will be a Prestige level of Flawless when there's far fewer players in there. Just going Flawless is a lot harder.
Now, I played a lot less of this mode than you guys, but one thing that we talked about this morning, Justin Inner Black Ninja, who you guys will probably be seeing very soon, my wife and myself, we were in a party together in Trials of the Nine, and my wife was brand new to the mode. I had just started with you guys yesterday, and we were going up against people who went flawless, and for me, that felt a little off. You know, you got someone who's totally new. I feel like Bungie should enact some type of protocol for people who have never done it before. People who have
shut your whore mouth.
They did, Beastly. In D1, it started off connection based, like it is right now. So it was beautiful, Beastly. You could match up against.
Really,
yes, it's a beautiful thing. Meaning our first game on our card, we could match up against somebody who's on their flawless game, who's already been playing, synergy, working the map well. They got a plan that works, and they're going to stick to it. On the other side, You could be on your flawless game and be going up against somebody's first game where you've already got your methods down. You've already got your lanes, your job, your synergy, and these guys are just jumping in. So it's a give and take thing. They switched it to where it was win-based, which led to longer match times, poor connections, and you had most every single time you got to your flawless game, you were playing against somebody on the opposite side of the world who had a red bar that did not affect their gameplay, but did everything.
Destroyed my argument.
It was the sweatiest of the sweatiest, man. It was unbelievable. The way Trials started right after it launched, I thought it was a wonderful game mode, and it got, to me, the game mode got progressively worse as it went along because they kept making changes to it that made connections worse. They made all sorts of changes to it that just it made it less enjoyable over time. But yeah, it seems to be fairly connection based now. Did you guys have any problems with connections?
No, not at all.
The only thing I
think I saw one Titan that was kind of a little sketchy, but
last night,
the usual like shoot a guy and you think he gets away and he gets around the corner and you're like, and then he goes down and you're like, I did land my shots. You know what I mean? And
we have worse connections in the EU, definitely so. Some of the EU tubers as well that were putting stuff out, and the EU streamers. If you watch some of their clips, I think a good example is DPJ. If you follow him on Twitter, he had a 10-second clip on Twitter of someone that he thought, the guys that are kind of like just flying up into the air and just dropping back down as they move. We were getting some wonky connections in the EU, right. But that's to be expected. We've got longer distances between sort of community hubs, whereas you guys are pretty much on top of each other in the States. So, yeah, different experiences. And Bungie servers as well, where they host from. The physics servers are all in the US. So you guys have the best possible experience on Destiny in comparison with the rest of the world.
You got the best everything.
With all that said, I had a blast. And it was a good time, and I can't wait to do more.
Yeah, that's it. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I really enjoyed the experience. I thought they did an awesome job with like kind of the setup for it, and I really like how you go in and you get to see, you get to see your team and you get to see the enemy team, like kind of like
do their
like little
emotes.
I wouldn't mind if they would just cut out your team and just show the enemy team, just speed things up a little bit. Maybe even add a skip button.
Yeah, it was cool the first time.
Yeah, it was super cool. And then when you actually complete your card and go to get your rewards, that's pretty next level. I don't want to really spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but you go to a really cool destination, and the nice thing about this destination as compared to the Lighthouse in Destiny 1 is that it's much more accessible to everybody. You're not gonna see people in chat, on YouTube videos saying, I never got to the Lighthouse, I never got to see it. It was content that I paid for, but I never got to see. Everybody's gonna get to go see this thing. If you can win one match, I think you get to go there.
That's cool. Yeah, just to get you prepared before you go, just watch Pink Floyd's The Wall. I think we decided was, and that's all we'll say about it. Gary came.
Yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how much I'm enjoying this game. It's been, 2 weeks since the game is released. I haven't played anything else. And you guys know me. You've known me for years, Briar. I'll find a way to squeeze The Last of Us into my life.
Yeah.
And
you said last night that Last of Us had a graphical update. You haven't even checked it out yet.
I don't give a damn about it. To be totally honest, I've seen it all, right? And I hate to say that. Please, Bruce Straley, Neil Druckmann, don't hit me up on Twitter and cuss me out.
Last of Us 2 is calling him, and he straight ignored him.
I've just been enjoying this game. It's so rewarding to me, and I'm one of those guys that Destiny 1. I know that it had a special recipe that called people back. It called you guys back over and over again. Briar called you for years, and for a long time, I looked from the sidelines and wondered what that thing was that kept you so engrossed with the experience. Because I played it, as a person who's kind of passively playing it, not learning the lore, not finding out everything you could do, because I felt like I didn't have the time and I didn't want to figure it out. To me, the game seemed so repetitive, and it didn't seem like it was rewarding me for anything. I was buying DLC and never going to raids. I was like, this is shit. This seems so different for me. Every time I do anything, I'm getting some kind of crazy reward. I'm leveling up my character. I'm actually considering now, as soon as I get to the max, starting a new character finally for the first time in my life. These are things I'm actually looking forward to. And now I feel like I can't stop playing this game, which sucks because I used to talk a lot of shit about Destiny. I did, and you know, even when I said it,
now.
even when I said it to you guys a few weeks ago, I told you, Briar, in a private conversation that I think I want to play this game for a year. When I said it, I kind of cringed on the inside. I was like, well, if it's like Destiny, I probably won't. But it is like Destiny, and I just didn't take the time to experience it the way it really needed to be. But right now, Destiny 2 is at the top of my radar. It's like the only game that matters to me. It's so great. I just love everything about it.
You got to check out the raid then.
Yeah, I definitely
raid
do.
Is thick. It's
13 hours later.
Oh, yeah. I won't take 13 hours now. That was a blind run, trying to figure out everything as we went.
Man.
Honestly,
good job.
I was telling you guys last night, I was so sick that day too.
Yeah,
I was literally like, I mean, I had liquid coming out of holes that it was not supposed to come out of. It was bad news, man. Real bad.
Oh man, just
scream
that you're peeing. I'm peeing again.
Yeah, you're not supposed to spend that much time in the raid, man. It says
that
right in the disclaimer.
That was an exotic debuff, I can tell you.
It was exotic, all right.
Miss Rabbit was, you guys,
Miss Rabbit was screaming to him. Miss Rabbit said, "Are you in there peeing again?" He said, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. We got to get the raid done as a group so that we can talk about that some more. It is really fun though, and it really feels like a unique experience to any of the Destiny 1 raids. Really cool looking. It's got a different tone. It's a much more, I would say, jovial tone than some of the like world-ending catastrophes that awaited us if we failed. It was a cool raid. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to play it with you guys.
Well, a lot of the raids had themes to them. You know what I mean? They'd have like a theme, like a name for the raid. And if I had to choose one for this raid, it would be exploration.
Oh yeah,
it's very, very vast.
It feels like it's as big as any of the other destinations on the map. Like if you were to go to that European Dead Zone or Nessus, it feels like the Leviathan is that big. It's got like your regular raid areas, but then there's this whole underbelly that you can explore, and it's just so vast. It really is cool.
It's very apparent the moment you load in.
It's the size of
how vast it's going to be. I would say that it's equivalent to one of the planetary social spaces in size for sure. Oh. And it's very apparent the moment you drop into the raid. I'm kind of being careful about what I say because it's that special when you experience it for the first time. You load in and you're instantly overwhelmed within the first second. And I don't mean by enemies, I don't mean by combat. I just mean by just the vastness and the detail of the very opening part of the raid. And it's a lot of fun. It is a bitch to get through if you don't know what to do. Fortunately, there's a lot of people out there who have done it multiple times, and the community seems to be developing a overall strategy. Yeah. And I'm guessing within the next week or two it'll be on farm for sure. But man, was it a bitch blind, dude. We bowed out a little bit before you, Briar. So kudos to you guys, man. You guys were just hanging in there, and I ended up watching your guys' completion to the end because I wanted to see how you guys did it versus what we were doing, and came back at it the next night, and that's how we ended up actually finishing it. So
that's a cool raid. I want to talk about it more once everybody's had a chance to do it because I thought it was awesome. And me and Gary were supposed to do it today. I had to bail because I'm not gonna lie, I just read my photo shoot schedule today.
Sure did. So real quick, Wilson, how long did it take you to complete the raid your first time through? Just curious. Because you went blind as well too, right? Until you saw the end.
Yeah, we went in blind, and then some people we hit a wall at an area of the raid where a lot of people hit the wall. It's called the Pleasure Gardens.
There is no pleasure in the Pleasure Gardens.
There is no pleasure to be had in those gardens. There's plenty. There's plenty of gardens.
Your window, man. Dude, it sounds great.
It's the exact opposite of pleasure. Actually, it was the spot that was that decided that either you had the right team to complete this raid or you didn't.
Wow.
It was.
So that's where Pink Floyd's The Wall comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna plant the seed of, I guess, a idea in their head. There was plenty of doggy style in the pleasure gardens.
Oh, well,
Indeed.
I need to see this place.
Well said. So basically, we got to that. Some people had to leave. We had already been 5+ hours in by the time we got to that part. Some people had to leave, so we took a couple-hour break, and I ended up getting in with a different group, making it to the end boss, hit a wall there, ended up getting off the night. So I think it ended up taking me close to 13-ish hours in total.
Wow.
Close to 12, 13 after I had put it in.
I'll say, though, is that those numbers, those day one numbers, it's like once you understand what's going on at the pleasure garden,
Ooh, sounds
it's not
good.
as difficult as it was figuring it out. Like just figuring out the strategy to clear that. I could say my group was doing it so fucking wrong, like so wrong. Like we were just making it 100 times harder than it had to be, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like don't let those 12, 13-hour totals. In a week, it'll be an hour and a half.
Yeah, and somebody had the solution to it, and we're like, no, that's not it. Always keep that in mind. Don't be so quick to dismiss a strategy, because we definitely shot it down a few times, and it ended up being the winning strategy. So.
If you guys were to try, like you and Gary were planning on running it today, how much time had you allotted for this raid? 4 hours, maybe?
I had scheduled for 2 hours, and I wanted to be done by 5, so we could start the show at 6. So 3 hours.
3 hours. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I personally didn't go for day one raiding. I could have done. I had a couple of people that as well had slots, but I'm not much of a PvE player. So me personally, I'd rather get in, experience it, get it done, get out. Because it sounds like an idea of torture to me to spend 14 hours in there, but more power to people. I'll let you guys go in.
It sounds pretty bad, yeah, Gary. You're
it's
right.
like the Omaha landings. You guys go in and take out the machine guns on the beach, and then I'll come in with the 2nd Battalion and just cruise up in my Humvee.
Pick up all the loot.
I really like it. To me, it's always one of the highlights of a Destiny release. Going into a raid blind, figuring it out with your trying to just work those puzzles, exactly what has to happen. And yeah, there's a lot of failure, there's some frustration, but I really feel like bonds are formed in that kind of an experience that you don't get I think you do get it from PvP as well. Like, I think you get it from trials as well. Just trying, because it's very difficult. You really have to work as a team. You're going to get frustrated. Other people are going to, have elation. So you kind of get the range of emotion that I think does really form those bonds. Day one raid definitely does.
And I think Destiny's the only game as well that has it anymore. So coming from a World of Warcraft background for years and years and years now, World of Warcraft has had a public test realm. So any raids that are coming out are on the test realm for 2-3 months before they drop. So everyone knows what the bosses are going to be and what the tactics are. And what
so they don't have a race to complete the raid?
There's still a race to complete it. You won't complete it for months. It's not about knowing the tactics. It's about executing on them. So it's a very different model. You know what you need to do, but in World of Warcraft, you need 25 people to execute perfectly.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. You need to have the best possible gear that you can. You need to be DPSing at absolute min-max level. Your movement needs to be spot on. If 1 or 2 people mess up, the raid wipes. It's all time. There's all again, it's a different model. It's less about knowing what to do and more about can you do this perfectly for 22, 23 minutes or whatever the encounter is, and do that again and again and again throughout. So different models. But yeah, Destiny's one of the only games anymore that has that blind raid element. So it's quite unique.
Wow. You just scared me out of trying World of Warcraft, but thanks. Shit.
You almost had him there, Gary. You
almost
had him.
It almost takes months to do. I was like, wait, 25 gamers work together to fuck up. It's a wipe. I'm like, what?
Not just gamers. World of Warcraft gamers.
Gamers, yeah. Those are different. A different kind of animal there, Briar.
Yeah.
These are some toxic people. They've got the DPS meters at the end of it. They've got you bent over a barrel if you're under the red line threshold. They're like, there's some toxic bitches on that game. Trust me.
I've seen some funny ass videos on World of Warcraft raids of the raid guy that's usually talking over everyone, and there is some hilarious chatter. And I'm telling you, man, it's like boot camp for video games. They are on your ass, and you will not get invited back unless you hit that standard. And Gary is that standard. Let's be real.
I feel like Gary is the guy talking in that video.
Right.
It probably is.
You're 100,000 points below the DPS standard.
Yeah, Gary's that dude.
You're not welcome here. You know,
Can you
says it to
justify
you.
this to me? Can you justify in 3 sentences why
Are
you're
you
doing
drunk?
Why did you not cast?
Did your wife
Intimidating
have a
Shout?
baby during the raid? Because that's the only excuse I'll accept.
Most of the time, it's they drop their Cheetos on the keyboard or something of that nature.
I can't hit the W key. There's Cheeto dust stuck underneath it.
shitty excuse. Shitty excuse.
I can no longer cast intimidating shout. Help.
What else we got for topics today? Let's move on.
But before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on Destiny 1.5's resurgence.
What's that now?
So this is a lot of the embargoes for reviews or whatever it is. You know, people have seemed to have started dropping scores. You know, that it used to be reviews in progress, and now we're seeing final reviews come out, and we're seeing now a lot of people that have played the content and the initial day one revelations, or people being like, "Oh, this game's amazing." It's not universal anymore. There seems to be a definite theme throughout not just the reviewers but the content creator community now that is saying that if you like Destiny, this is a lot more Destiny, but this is more of a reboot than a sequel. It's the core components of the game are the same. The enemies are largely reskinned. The activities are largely the same with some tweaks. Everything's just the same but expanded, with the things that didn't work cut out and the things that were community hits put in. You know, this truly is Destiny 1.5. So do we agree? Do we think there's validity in their statements? What do we think?
I think this is a semantic argument, to be honest with you. I mean, I believe that the Taken King was Destiny 1.5. Like, honestly, it was a huge change to Destiny. It felt like a 1.5. Destiny 2, it does feel like a sequel in the way that Halo 2 felt like a sequel to Halo, or Halo 3 felt like a sequel to Halo 2.
Mm-hmm.
It still feels like Halo. It's still got the same enemies in it, still got the same guns in it, but it's a new, there's new content, there's new stuff. That's how Destiny 2.
I just look at it as like a continuation. You know what I mean? Like, it's evolving. Like, of course there's going to be familiarity with it because that's what makes the game that game. You stray away from that too far and you lose sight of what makes the game that game and why people come back to it. So there has to be something familiar and there has to be something fresh. You know what I mean? And I feel like they did a good job with that. And like, I can kind of see where they're coming from, but like, dude, I've been playing this game way too much. I've been sinking a lot of time into it. Brother. Yeah. And I can kind of see where that's coming from, but we're not normal people when it comes to this game. We are in a very small percentage of people who make time to play the shit out of this game. And there's some people out there that have so much stuff left to do. And like, I envy that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm about on my third character.
Damn.
And like, oh dude, that's nothing. Some people already got their third characters all 300 and 290s and stuff like that. And
how?
I'm thinking to myself, what am I gonna do after I get my third character? And then I remember that the PC's dropping.
That's Destiny 2 right there. That's Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Listen,
see Gary go from 6 to midnight right there. All of a sudden,
the desk just rose in front of me with no hands touching it. It was amazing.
Did you say PC?
And Wilson, you hit the nail on the head for me, right? For me in Destiny, even though I'm playing this a lot more than any game in recent memory, for me, when it comes to games, I'll just say Destiny, I feel like I'm a pretty normal person. I'm trying as hard as I can to make as much time as I can for this game. But it's like, you guys are my friends, my co-hosts. Every time I see you, you guys have done something insane. You've already completed all this stuff. And I'm like, how the hell am I even in the same group with these guys? And so I feel like I'm just a normal guy trying to keep up with the gods of Destiny. And it sucks hard. I keep telling you guys on Twitter, I got to get rid of some of these kids and responsibilities so I can sink more time into this game.
I offered you a valid solution yesterday and you refused it.
Briar offered to buy my kid. And then he upped his price when he found out she sucks boobies.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right.
Now, the reason why you're in the same group as us is because you send us nudes. No, seriously, it's because you're yourself.
Don't tell everybody.
It's because you're yourself, man. It's not about being the first to complete the content on the first day, man. It's just about hanging out with friends and doing something other than stressful real life shit. You know what I
Wilson,
mean?
thank you so much for saying something awesome that Gary will never say to me. Speaking of video game addiction, that's the first topic for today's episode of Revolver Live. Many studies have stated that playing video games can lead to severe gaming addiction, i.e., not leaving your bedroom unless to eat, spending huge portions of the day playing your game of choice, having little or no social life, and being an all-around useless human being. And I'm not saying that's anyone here. I think these studies have some merit. As a matter of fact, my sons fall into some of those stereotypes. I also believe that these studies can be subjective. As a gamer, most of my life, including my childhood, I have strived to be productive and have, for the most part, reached the goals I've set for myself. We're a gang of adult gamers who play large portions of games for large portions of our day. So are we video game addicts? Is it possible to be a functioning video game addict? Answers?
100%. It's you're totally able to be a functioning video game addict. You guys are the three functional ones, and I'm definitely the dysfunctional one. So we have multiple ends of the spectrum here. And I believe coming off Destiny 2, that was a perfect transition, because I have definitely been shirking some, like, just pushing some duties away here and there to play Destiny.
Have you not shaved your legs since this game came out?
I shaved my face for the first time since the game came out. And I hastily picked up my room a little bit. You can't see. It's over here.
I sent you guys that text that my wife sent me.
Sure did.
You
It was
need
awesome,
to get a haircut
guys.
today.
Yeah.
In no uncertain terms, don't come back unless it's plucked. His wife is awesome.
There's certain games, man, that grab me and pull me in for a certain amount of time. And I go, just anything that I pick up that's new, that's very interesting, dude, I go hard. Like I'm very obsessive. It consumes a lot of my thoughts. It consumes a lot of like my day-to-day activities and stuff. But eventually I'll get to a point where I'll feel like it'll be a little bit more easier to manage like my playtime and shit that I actually need to do. Definitely missed like garbage night a day or two and things like just stupid shit. Like it's not anything like we're forgetting to pay bills or anything like that. But like it's little things, and it's definitely because Destiny 2 is out.
Yeah,
and
well,
after a
I know
while,
what that-
man, I'll even back out. I'll plateau, so to speak.
Missing garbage night, people don't think it's a big deal, but trust me, if you live with a woman,
deal.
that shit's a big deal. All right, you got that
You
trash
got a
can
family,
outside
too, like, that
smelling.
shit-
Oh my
That
god!
shit gets filled up in a week, and you can't let it go for 2 weeks because
The reason-
I think that's because people don't understand how to properly pack trash. Yeah, it's like Tetris, man. I think like if you had like a bunch of heterosexual men living together, the trash would never go out because you'd be so effective at packing it. Like, I think if you're a man in your like, I'd say 25, 30, you hit your peak, and then from then on you kind of maybe detract down a little bit. But at that point there, you're such an effective, finely tuned trash packing machine. I can get like 7 pizza boxes squared up and put into it. I can jam like 7 milk cartons. It's great. Like,
you know what I hate to
just
see, Gary, is when somebody puts a 2-liter bottle in the recycle bin, they don't squeeze the bottle and get the air out. That's just
I know,
wasted
amateurs.
space.
Amateurs.
Damn right.
Sorry, Briar. Next time I throw one in there, I'll be sure to.
If you get a
My bad.
can, you take it outside first, stamp on the can to flatten it, then put it in. If you get, crisp bags, suck them first to get the air out, tie them in a knot. Man, I'll do anything to not take the trash out. Like, I will
Damn,
go
Gary.
through these like loopholes to
Would
do
you
it.
like to move in, Gary? Look, let me just say this real quick. This, and I'm sure for you guys, you'd probably agree, is Destiny 2 is a game that you guys are addicted to, because to be totally
all right,
honest,
hold on. Now, when you say addiction, right? There's qualifiers for what addiction is. There's compulsive behavior, right? And there are consequences, right?
okay,
You continue to do a compulsive behavior in spite of adverse consequences, right?
Mhm.
Does anybody have any adverse consequences because they're playing Destiny 2? I might,
so much other shit
I
I'm
might
not
raise my
doing.
hand a little bit. I did talk earlier about having 4 hours of sleep like for multiple days in a row. My
Yeah,
wife is getting a little on the edgy side. She understands, but she wants to go out to dinner.
yeah, those are adverse effects, Briar.
But
Uh,
like at the same time, it's like, this is my job. Let's
Yeah.
be honest, right? This is my job. What I do.
You're so awesome.
And when when something like this comes along,
It's a special
not
thing.
just about wanting to play as much as I can, because I do. It's also about, like, I need to capitalize on this because this is the season that I make the bulk of my money for the year, right? Is the season between September and December, I'll make 50% of my revenue for the entire year. 50% of my income for the entire year will come in a few months. So it's partly addiction. It's also partly just like
Priority.
you gotta work, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, for me, right? Very few times have I had a game that just sucked me in like this. I just got done cutting my kid's hair, my boy's hair, and I got done with their hair at 5:00. And I came in here and I sat down in front of my laptop, and Kate was over there playing her game, and she looked at me and she said, "Come on!" And I was like, "Well, I gotta get ready to do the show." She's like, "You don't have a few minutes to do this mission?" I was like, maybe after. And she like kind of got up and looked at me like, "You fucking loser," and she stormed out. This is a game that's really got us, and she doesn't even have gonads, but if she did, she'd be got by the gonads. And this is all I talk about. This is the only game that I really think about right now, and it's really frustrating to me because I got over 300 games on PS4, a lot of them, and this is the only thing, and it doesn't feel like I'm going to feel different anytime soon. So much shit I haven't seen. I still haven't seen the Nightfall. Still haven't seen the Raid. Just got introduced into Trials of 9. I've never upgraded or started any other characters.
Beasley, did you have a chance to play the PC beta? I'm just curious.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
No.
I'm
Trying to
curious.
say it like you're...
Are you planning on getting the PC version?
If you guys want me to get it, I'll get it. I mean, I'm getting a gaming PC, so I think it'd be important. But
yeah,
I'm not a mouse and keyboard guy. And one thing that Gary said that rang true with me in the opposite direction is he doesn't know how to play with one of these.
The PC
Gary
version worked awesome with it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Some would
really?
say too awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's an
yeah.
argument for another day.
Yeah. And so traditional PC gaming is something I'll probably shy away from. But if it works fine, if I can plug in my Xbox One or my Xbox 360 or my PS4 controller and play it, I definitely do that and get down with you guys for sure.
There's a lot of games that have controller support for PC, but the biggest rule of thumb with that is you just don't tell Gary that you're using one.
Nah, fuck that.
I
I
can't
tell
believe
Gary
you
every
joined our
time.
PUBG team with a controller. That was just
Sure
tragic.
did.
Saying that, we need to
Sure
play
did.
PUBG again, man. I miss that game.
Yeah, we
Something
do,
tragic.
actually.
I
They
really
added
do miss it.
a new city to the map on that, and they added a fog effect.
What?
There's rain, there's sunset, there's time of day, fog. I really want to play that again. We was talking about
Man,
it.
Destiny just...
Yeah, I
messed
fucking miss that
everything
game. I mean, video game addiction. To chime in my 2 cents, is you gotta have some vices somewhere, and I think it's one of the least destructive you can possibly have because, I'm either going to be addicted to video games or hookers or crack.
Yeah.
So it's going to be,
Those are
one
Really
of
sound
those.
good. Can we just get the trifecta?
We start a podcast about that.
That just sounds like
That sounds like an
an
awesome
average Friday
podcast.
for me in that order. No, I mean,
Hookers,
all
crack,
the
and
things-
Destiny.
Yeah, that's the best. That is a,
Which just
that is
happens
a
to be the
trifecta.
name of the hooker.
Oh, it's meant to be.
I think if anything, she could be the final man of our trials team if BC doesn't want to go in there. So there you go. We've got this is Destiny.
God.
We'll be taking her to the Spire today.
Destiny does Destiny.
Destiny does Destiny.
But yeah, I mean, there's guys that will go out and gamble on a Friday night and they'll spend a ridiculous amount of money on that. There's people that like a drink and they'll bring home 24 cans of beer and they'll sit through that. If you're going to sit in on an evening and play a video game and say, oh, you've got a problem, you've got an addiction, what is it? It's just what you do with your leisure time. I'm going to stare at the wall for the rest of the time. Then anything's an addiction.
You're right.
Whatever
I think
you
the
do is an
problem
addiction.
comes if you start choosing your hobby or your addiction over the other important things in your life, right? If you're not going to work, if you're not taking care of your relationship, you're not communicating with your friends, if that kind of stuff is happening, then you really got to take a step back. You got to look, because if your family life suffers, if your work life suffers, social life suffers. I mean, Destiny is a funny thing because it kind of provides other social life,
It really does. It's so weird.
But I mean, just because it's not crack doesn't mean it can't be harmful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you guys remember back when Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, there were people losing their jobs and they were unable to go to work. And usually every Elder Scrolls does this. I don't know about the effects of Destiny, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who get so caught up, and it happens primarily in MMOs. There's been so many people who've gotten caught up in World of Warcraft that became their life, and they put everything else to the side. And sometimes people will lose their home, lose their car, lose their relationships. There was a guy who sued a video game company about 2 years ago because he got divorced, and he blamed it on the gaming company because he was so enthralled with that experience. And that's why, for me, I think I'm a functioning game addict, because that is my vice, as Gary said. I've always been a gamer, and I've told you guys this for years. It's what I did as a kid to stay out of trouble, because I had friends out in the world who were doing things that eventually got them caught up, in bad scenarios in the street. And instead of that, my mom had us with a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, all the way up till we were able to buy our own games. And we stayed there and enjoyed that artificial world. And to me, it's like people get addicted to Netflix and they'll sit and watch, shows back to back. And it's not really hurting anyone as long as you keep things in check. And that was my thoughts on it. Gary actually wanted to do the same topic. That's why we're in cohesion, at least someplace, not in Destiny.
I totally feel you guys. Like, I've had discussions with people that are like, why you waste your time sitting around playing a video game? And like, they have the 1980s, 1990s thought of video games in their head of like single player. You're not conversing with anyone. Yeah. That sort of thing. To which I usually respond, like, well, what'd you do last night? Just like almost like I'm changing the subject, you know what I mean? And I went and bought a 30 pack and went home and binge watched Walking Dead. Okay, how much money did you spend on that 30 pack and you got one night of enjoyment out of it? I spent $60 on a game and I'm probably going to be playing it for the next 3 years or the rest of my life. I don't know. And I told him it's no different. Like you sitting on the couch watching a show, drinking a 30 pack, and me sitting down and playing video games and conversing with my friends is two completely different things. It's kind of like what you said. What you do in your own leisure time is you. Some people like to do yard work. Some people like to go for walks. Some people like to sit outside. I like to sit inside and stare at a TV and shoot aliens all day.
That sounds awesome.
I'll be honest, too. I am prone to compulsive behavior. When I get into a hobby, it is consuming.
Me too.
It doesn't matter what it is. Mountain biking, golfing, poker. Yeah, poker was, I think I spent 7 years where I was just like focused on poker. That's all I did. Played poker.
Played a lot of poker too when the whole no limit hold'em thing was like huge, man. We used to go around town and hit up.
It was like people were just giving you money. All you had to do was just know a little bit about how to play, and people would just hand you their money.
Yep.
Because all they saw, they watched poker on TV, and all they saw was people doing the sliding in their whole stack thing, right? I'm bluffing my whole stack away, and I'm just like, and I'm not bluffing, and I'm taking your whole stack.
Hey, mine were never to play poker with you, Briar.
Or the people who thought they had a better hand and they didn't quite understand the rules, you know what I mean? And they go all in, that sort of thing. Yeah, we used to hit a lot of tables up, man. And I'm the same way, dude. When I get into something, like it used to be like modding original Xboxes, modding 360s, cutting them open, putting the plexiglass with all the lights and all the different stuff on them. It was a lot of fun. Anything with soldering, any of that type of stuff, like consumed me for the longest time. And I'm the same way, man. When I pick up like a new hobby or something that I'm passionate about, dude, I go hard. And
I think
sometimes
we're all compulsive. I've heard you say it, Wilson and Briar, and I've been compulsive my entire life. But like you guys, I'm able to admit that, and that's the mitigating factor. It makes it easier for you to watch your compulsions and understand that you can get so balls deep into anything that it can disrupt, your daily functions and your priorities, and but. Back to the topic at hand. Gary does not like to play Destiny with Beastly Gamer.
True that.
All right. What's the name? What's the next topic? True that.
I'm not going to lie. Switching off. So similar thing to video game addiction, actually. It's a nice clean transition. Can we ever not be online anymore? So, if you're not playing a game, you're looking at that game, thinking about that game, all the components of addiction, looking around it. If you're not talking about games, you're checking what's happening on the news. If you're not looking at the news, you just decided that you really need to know what food and Aardvark eats, and you're looking that up at that moment in time on Google. You might walk by and you see an actor that you've not heard of in 17 years on something. You go, I wonder what they did, and then you're looking at their filmography on Wikipedia, and then that comes up, and you think, were they in a film with Joan Rivers? I wonder what Joan Rivers looked like when she was 20. And you just go start looking through that, and it's like a dangerous rabbit hole to fall down, to continue going through. There's always something to keep you online and keep you out of the world that you're actually living in around you. Do you guys think that it's possible to ever not be online? Because you almost have to actively force yourself to not be. And secondly, we've got 2.5 people here, I guess, that are content creators. Is it worse for yourselves, who feel an obligation to almost maintain a connection to your craft and your audience?
Briar, would you like to elaborate on this first, or you want me to spill my thoughts?
This is a weird subject. Yeah, go ahead, please.
For me, at this point, coming from the era where internet barely existed to watching it become a reality in the form of dial-up, and then DSL and all these things that have happened over the years, to the point where now every phone is a computer and you have the whole world at your fingertips. It's very, very hard to step out of that reality. When Hurricane Irma came through here last week and everything got knocked out, my only piece of technology that kept me up to date with what was going on was my phone. And Kate was the same way. And we went out there and braved that wind to plug our phones into the car just to get some information, just so we could find out what was going on. And you're right. It's an ever-opening hole. Every time you look for something, you find something else more interesting, or something else that pulls your attention in another direction. The internet it's the present, and I think it'll always be the future. I just for me, I'm more curious to see what new form it takes in the next few years. Because, Briar, you remember dial-up. These kids have no idea what that even is.
Dude, porn took so long to download. It's ridiculous.
You couldn't even download a picture of titties.
Dude, it took
like
10 minutes.
Yeah, you were over it by the time.
Yeah, those were the days when you used to have to go into like Betterware and stuff and go and get catalogs from clothing stores and flick to the lingerie section and squint at it. And it was kind of
the
almost
Victoria's Secret catalog. Best day of the month.
We used to just go into the gas station and act like we were getting other stuff, and you'd slowly creep towards the Playboy magazines. You'd get over there, and it'd be just, it'd be within reach. You'd get up there, and just as you got your hand on it, the cashier would be like, "What are you doing?" And go over, yell at you guys. We'd run out of the store. Or the neighbor always had a big stash of Playboys. We'd always be over at his garage trying to rent it. The internet, I think it's too late. I think the damage is done. I think if you try to take away the internet right now, it'd be like equivalent to taking away, say, the automobile. There's a lot of people, you depend on your car every day to get to work. There's a lot of people who depend on the internet every day to do their work and things like that. And it's a lot of people. And a lot of businesses, like the reason why there's such ease of access with everything nowadays, whether it be information, products, entertainment, anything like that, there's a reason why it's all so easily accessible now. And it's because of the advancements of the internet. And I'm with you, man. I can't wait to see what the next form it takes, because at some point in time, somebody will come along who reinvents the wheel. Yeah, and basically makes it better.
Part of us. I mean, hopefully we won't get into that humanism stuff, but it'll be glasses and rings and watches and things like that are more powerful than the phones we carry with us today. And, think about the effects that the internet has had on the environment. The paper industry is dying because of email and because of the way we're able to converse and send messages around the world now instantaneously. Everyone's dependent on some level. My mom, who just got her first smartphone like 2 months ago, now she understands. She sees the light. My dad is constantly sending me emails and messages and YouTube links. And I'm like, wow, this guy's 63 years old. He knows what the hell is going on. It's a part of our society. And at this point, it's only going to get better.
It's fucked some shit up, though. Like, it's fucked some shit up bad. Right? It's like you go to a restaurant with some friends and you start a conversation up and half of your friends are looking at their phone. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That kind of shit is like awful. kids right now, like
they're the worst.
It's you have if you give a kid a cell phone and it is all consuming because it's just like they can plunge the depth of any subject or anything that they want in the world, right? The actual real world is so less interesting, interesting. I'm watching this happen, and I don't know how to deal with it because, like, what am I going to do? Like, take away like the most valuable tool in the history of humanity from these children?
I totally
or
understand.
am I gonna?
I totally understand what you're saying, but do you not like kind of see like our parents back in the day yelling at us about carrying around like a Game Boy or something and like it consuming us?
For sure. I mean, it was comic books for them and their parents.
Different.
You know?
It's different, but it's still something to escape reality, whether it be a train set or an iPad.
Well,
no, I mean, for me, I can't be hypocritical and ever begrudge someone looking at it because I personally am probably the biggest single consumer on the entire internet. I think if you collected everyone's internet consumption and added it together, you'd still click on less clickbait than I do. I cannot go past an article, right, that says, you won't believe what these Hollywood stars look like now. I'll be like, I can't
do all the time.
Navigating porn must be a nightmare for you.
I never get to the porn. I'm too busy looking at, what the kid from the Goonies looks like nowadays, because that's what I'm into there. Yeah. This star's lost so much weight. Can you believe it? No, I can't. Let's have
Precious,
a look.
Yeah, that's my day. Too.
I will
you
say
won't
this.
Believe what Precious
have you seen
like,
Honey
man?
Boo Boo? The mum from Honey Boo Boo, man. She's like this now, tiny.
Yeah.
Really?
Looking pretty good for herself.
We're clicking on the same shit.
Briar, you need to click on them clickbaits. I
don't know. Over the last 2 weeks, I think you've told me like major revelations about people I know. Like personally, you're like, oh, did you know this? I'm like, no. Like stuff that was on the internet. I was like, no, I didn't know. Oh.
Blame Reddit, man. Blame Reddit.
Let me just say this
was when Gary was talking shit about people who's like, who in their right mind would sit here and watch the hurricane? And then 10 minutes later, he goes, right, I got 4 different news sources up, and he had
watching the hurricane.
He's reading the chat about the hurricane. Like, so he's watching the newscast, and he's got the chat going, and he's reading us the chat.
Which was amazing, by the way.
I was shoutcasting the hurricane.
They're like fake news, fake hurricane, fake this.
I liked fake Mexican tornado was my favorite quote.
Tornado. Oh my god.
The internet damaged my kids, right? My ex, my son's mother, she always believed that just because who she was, our kids deserved to have the best, to be first, and not only keep up with the Joneses. She was like, fuck the Joneses, they're keeping up with us. And so my kids were 8 years, Brett was 8 and Brendan was 7 when she bought them their first cell phone. Yeah. And during that time we were separated. And I asked her then, I was like, why would you want to get a kid a phone at this age? She said, what if they have an emergency? Well, why don't you get the older one a phone and put locks on it?
What kind of emergency is getting? They go from.
Look, my boys are 15 and 16, Briar. They probably made 10 phone calls since that time.
Yeah, tell me about it. They don't answer the phone when I call them. I pay fucking
$200
a month for these fucking things.
Yeah, they cost a lot. Check it out, right?
Not bitter.
My son, when he was
poll monitor.
When he was 12, he was on punishment. He was acting up in school, and a lot of it had to do with what he was learning from his friends in school and the internet. But he was on punishment, so he had no games. I got him a bag of Stephen King books to read. Sorry, that's just my taste. And there was no game and no phone. So I told him to keep his phone at his mom's house when he came over to our house. This day in particular, I walk into his room. He had earbuds in. The phone's supposed to be gone. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? So I walk over to him, and then he tried to pretend like he was simultaneously falling to sleep. So he was like, and so I was like, what are you doing, son? And he was like, huh? I took the earbud out. I said, what the hell are you doing? He's like, oh, nothing. I said, what are you listening to? I pulled the cover back. All I saw was an ass bouncing up and down. And so my son, 12 years old, watching hardcore porn, the girl had a nice ass. But I grabbed his phone. I walked into the living room. And Kate was sitting there. That was back in the apartment. My older son was there. I said, Brendan's on punishment, right? She's like, yeah. I said, look what he's watching. I aired him out in front of Kate and my older son. And I brought him in the living room and he got his punishment. I called his mom immediately. I said, I told you this would happen. If you open the world up to children, they'll lose their innocence to the internet. And
You see, the first mistake he made there that you didn't, I'm going to blame you as the parent there, right? Not because he was looking at porn, but because he was looking at porn with headphones on. What a fucking mistake! Like, he was on there with headphones on.
He wanted to
be aware of your surroundings with headphones on.
He wanted to hear those cheeks clap in both ears. I mean, anyone with the mental fortitude of a 5-year-old would just say, "Turn the volume all the way down."
I gotta have full awareness of sounds like of feet coming down the hallway.
That's what wow, you really lose. Really lose your awareness.
Like I said, man, that's a fail as a dad to be like, look, son, if you're going to look at it, make sure you've got ears around you, make sure everything's quiet. You hear the slightest creak from a fucking floorboard 10 like meters down the hallway. It's off. Away.
True story, guys. We can move on. True story. I called their mom, and she was like, "Oh my God, I can't deal with this. I can't believe this. I can't." What was he looking at? I told her what he was looking at. I said, "I'm going through his history." Kate was like, "Wow, he's been looking at this for like 3 days straight. Just every type of topic possible." I'm looking at him like, "Damn, boy, you must have been like Data from Star Trek typing on that phone." And then his mom, she took his phone, and I thought she was doing the right thing. And I swear to you, like 2 days later, she bought him an iPhone. I was like, "It's over."
I picture him like Johnny Five from Short Circuit going, "Input, need more input."
Right?
He's just got really built on one arm for some reason. You can't work it out why, but the guy's just.
You've been playing a lot of tennis? That right arm, man. He must be really hitting that forehand smash well.
You just can't find any Vaseline in the house anymore. Like, every pot of Vaseline is just gone.
Yeah.
God damn it, I just bought this shampoo yesterday.
Why are the towels stuck together, Kate? We can't fucking get the towels apart.
He did what kids do, but he was on punishment. He got caught. That fucking internet did it to my son. Well, he did it to himself. Technically.
That must have been a double doozy, because not only did he get caught using the phone when he wasn't supposed to use it,
yeah,
hardcore.
That's bouncing hard too. I was like, "Damn, Brandon!" Thank God none of his friends watch Revolver live.
I was gonna say, I can't believe you just told that story.
We had a similar experience, Beasley, and I had that conversation with him. Like, look, did the same shit when I was a kid, but here's the deal: like, the shit has gotten way more crazy now. So, like, that's why we're restricting it. That's why we're locking this down. Is we don't want you to get a false idea of what sexuality actually looks like as an adult from the shit you're seeing on the internet, because that shit is crazy. Like, it's crazy. It's not what you want.
Nova is 7. She has YouTube for Kids on a Roku TV. A few months ago, it was here. Kate was in there, and I checked Nova's history, and she wrote, "What is sex?"
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, where did you hear about sex? She said, "Someone said it on one of the videos." I said, "That's not for kids to ever look up. You don't ever look at that word, try to find out what that word is. When you become a lady, when you're 35, then you'll find out what sex is, okay?"
When I'm old, when I'm dead and gone,
yeah,
you can figure it out.
That's the day.
Only to me until, you know what? I'll leave a note on the top of my casket. Gotcha. Shit. Internet, man, it can really open some doors that you don't want open for the innocence of the world. We're already corrupt. We're corrupt as hell.
I get completely overwhelmed by social media sometimes. As a content creator, I feel like I should be kind of constantly monitoring it, but like, sometimes you just want to like leave that phone in a different room and just have some peace and quiet, right? But then like you feel like people are getting pissed off at you. Like, oh, you're not responding right away. I know that phone's in your pocket. Like, I know that it's there, and people get mad at you. I really get overwhelmed by the social media aspect of it.
Damn. Sometimes
I catch myself at restaurants doing, like, me and Sam will be there, and I'll be like, we're both on our phone, and we'll both, like, without even saying anything, we'll both look at each other and, like, set the phone down. And like, we've been together for almost 8 years, man, and we went to a restaurant one time. We were both on our phones, and the waiter comes up and goes, "So, guys, first date?" And I looked up at him, and I was like, "Sure. Like, let's go with this." Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just from, like, both of us being on our phone, it looked like we were both, like, on a first date. Like, shit, what the hell did we say to this person? But
I'll show you my porn if you show me yours.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Like I said,
I'll show you my browser history if you show me yours.
It's less about the social media, and for me, it's just as long as you give me something in a top 10 list, I'm going to look at it. It's the ability to have It's the ability to have anything at the tip of your finger. That's the main thing. Is like when you say I'm at a restaurant, you're having a conversation. You don't have to describe something anymore because you can just say no. Physically, look at it. This is what it is. This is exactly what I'm describing. There you go. Take it and run with it.
It really fucked up bar arguments, though. I mean, bar arguments were unsolvable, huge mysteries of the universe that would basically go unsolved for the rest of your life. Now, some asshole just pulls out their phone, looks it up, and the conversation's over. You're like,
over.
Yeah.
Shut down.
Yeah.
Right,
the Earth isn't flat. Who knew?
You know why the reason you never solve bar arguments is because you're too drunk to remember what you talked about until the next day you have no idea what the argument was.
It was completely, it was so fucking inconsequential that you didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, bullshitters really ruled the day back then before Google on a phone.
Oh, yeah.
If you were a Class A bullshitter, you were the man. Nowadays, you always got that one person that's like, well, what does the Google say? You know what I mean? And get on there.
Like, just really inconsequential. What was the name of Joey Buttafuoco's like auto shop or something? You know, just some sort of crazy obscure thing from the 90s. Yeah. Hot tires, by the way, in case you didn't know. I looked up Joey Buttafuoco a little while ago. Consequently, then got onto the girl that he was seeing, who's actually made adult films, and now she's met another guy and divorced him. Again, it's this kind of Wikipedia rabbit hole that you get down. I just jump from one person to the next person. Yeah. I have a problem.
I think we've come too far, like, to go without the internet, and I can't stress enough about like how much it's even going to change and keep evolving. I mean, who would have, saw the invention of the very first telephone and said, someday you're going to watch people have sex on that. You know what I mean? They would have never saw it coming. You know what I mean?
I think about that on every single product. Every single product I see that's ever invented, I think someday we're going to figure out how to watch fucking on that. Like, it's inevitable.
When we were kids, we used to read the cereal box like fucking savages. Soon, you'll just be able to watch porn on it.
Yeah.
Eat your cereal.
Yes.
Yep.
The new iPad cereal box, like.
All right, guys. The next topic for discussion is single-player missed opportunities, and don't be too harsh on me if the games that I decided to talk about were not ones that you'd like to see with multiplayer additions. Let us know in the comments what you think about this topic. Have you ever played a single-player only game only to wish that there was more to it? Destiny 2 has been an awesome game so far, and while playing it, I asked myself what games of the past would have benefited from an online mode, either versus or co-op. I think games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Hellblade, possibly Resident Evil 7 could have benefited from some form of online play. What games have you played that you think would have benefited from some type of online mode?
So this is specific. This isn't a single-player game that you just wanted more content. Specifically want online play for a single player.
Some type of online mode.
I know I have an answer already because I've already thought about this a million times. For me, Elder Scrolls. And I'm not talking about the crappy Elder Scrolls Online game. I'm sorry if you guys enjoyed that game. I'm a huge Elder Scrolls fan. I could not get into the MMO version. What I want is true Oblivion, true Skyrim, with the ability to link into your friend's world and have shared loot across the game. Me and my friend, yes, yeah, like, so if you join my world, you pick up where I'm at in the game and my quest lines and things like that. And we can go do these quests together. We find a chest, it's got loot in it. Oh, what's your class? You're an archer, you should definitely have this bow. You're a magician, you should have the staff. I want that true, like, just vastness exploration of every single cave's got to be explored with a friend. And me and my cousin Conman would almost kind of replicate this as best as we could. We would hop in a party and go do the same quests together on different games, and he would be exploring the cave and be like, hey, did you take the first left when you went in? There was a chest that had something interesting in it. And that was the closest we could get to that feeling. And I really want that, man. I want it to be true Skyrim, exactly how it is now, but with a friend there.
That would be awesome,
no,
man.
No gimmicky mods on PC. I want it to be done by, Bethesda. And to me, that would probably be one of the end-all games.
Same thing with Fallout, though, if you think about it. Fallout. Imagine playing Fallout 3 or Fallout 4, and a group of four going into that game just as deep as it is now. Nothing sugar coated. You finding loot. You're playing together. You're going through the campaign. That would be unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, it would be not even necessarily 4-player. If I could even just get one more person in there with an amazing connection and like no desync and whatever, just if it could just be perfect and get another player in there. And I have been saying that since my first like 10 hours into Oblivion when it came out on the Xbox 360.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude, those Oblivion to this day is probably I consider it a modern game. It's
Same
old
here,
but it's modern. That is probably my favorite modern game of all time. The colors in that game and the exploration, and you're just walking over a hill and all of a sudden some asshole jumps out of the bushes and throws a fireball at you. You know what I mean? It's really
that
cool.
was the first. That was the first. That was the first Elder Scrolls game I played, and that was the only game I bought the actual official strategy guide for. That was like a fucking Bible with the Oblivion symbol on the front.
Yeah.
I still got it around here someplace. That is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, and you have for a game like that, you have to have a physical book, man. I cannot stop and go look something up on the internet. I have to have the book in front of me for a game like that. But man, it would just be so much fun. Like, I have so many good memories in that game. Like getting addicted to skooma for the first time was hilarious. You know what I mean, in the game, and like just some of the funny things. And if you can get into that, like with a friend,
you could turn into a vampire, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, or if a friend had an ailment and was paralyzed, and then all of a sudden, like you got to go on like a short quest to find some sort of like an ailment. I don't know. It'd be next level to me.
Yeah, it really would. Briar, Gary, any thoughts on any single player game that you've ever played? It could be from any generation that you think would have benefited from some. And don't say Super Mario World. I was just thinking about it because I had Gary's favorite controller in my hand. Thoughts, guys?
Sure.
So, for me, what you guys describe, I don't actually want to add multiplayer onto any of my games. And that's because I'm an antisocial individual. No, it's not at all. It's more about the fact that for me, I like a game that is designed and built from the ground up to be a social experience, and a game that is like multi-person. So I've played probably more MMOs than anyone here. Like I'm generally an MMO guy. That was what I played before shooters. Shooters, then heavily MMOs, then back to shooters. And what you described there about Skyrim and Oblivion, I like the idea. Let's have a world where you can go in with people into Skyrim. But my point is, why don't you just have Skyrim world that everyone else in there is another person? And again, not the MMO that we ended up with, but a proper true MMO. So rather than just you and your buddy, you've got you and your buddy are off fighting in a cave, and Beastly might be living with Kate in a village somewhere else, going fighting stuff. Briar's off slaying dragons in the valley down below, but we're all existing in a persistent world. And for me, that is why I played MMOs, because they were kind of reaching towards that fantasy. And the closest that I got to that were things like Anarchy Online, which felt very close to that. The original Star Wars Galaxies was very, very close to that, with player construction and housing. And whilst the MMO is kind of on a downward spiral at the moment, what we're seeing is a resurgence of the sandbox survival MMO, which are looking to create this kind of world where players build it from the ground up, build the cities, build the communities, build the player waypoints on the map, and actually populate it through themselves. So, yeah, for me, I think the single player, Horizon, for example, was a great game. I enjoyed playing it. Hellblade, I enjoyed playing it. Would I have enjoyed them more if they had an online component? Probably not. Same way, Wolfenstein probably would have been good with a deathmatch mode, but it wouldn't have diminished my enjoyment of the game, or didn't diminish my enjoyment not to have it. And I think that games crafted from the ground up to be online generally do that better. That's my take.
Well, what's the name of the game you've been playing where you snap panties, Gary?
Galgun.
You wouldn't like to snap panties with a friend? Two little...
To be honest, you wouldn't want to be on team chat with me when I'm snapping panties. It's quite uncomfortable.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So many single player games do add multiplayer components. I basically never even.
Some fail at it too. They try to add it like they think they have to, and it ends up being a complete
sad.
flop. Yeah, and other time and resources could have been spent elsewhere.
I'm gonna stretch this one because the game that I want to see function is Google Earth VR.
Man, you better not trip. Google Earth VR, I've maintained this so many times, is the best game on Oculus and Vive.
Calling it a game is, I think, stretching the definition of game. But what it is, for those who don't know what Google Earth VR is, it's basically you put on a VR headset and you have full access to Earth, and you can fly around. You can go anywhere on the planet, and Google Maps is, available to you in 3D. Like streets and cities are rendered in 3D, so you can fly into New York and stand below the Statue of Liberty, or you can stand at the tip of the torch on the Statue of Liberty. Then you can fly over to London and look at the Eye of London. You can fly anywhere in the world, and it's really a magical experience. It's beautiful, but there's no actual game to it, right? You're not shooting anything. You're just literally exploring and checking out beautiful places. This week they added Street View to it. So now when you actually go down to the street level, when you actually go down ground level, it's going to be even more detailed than it was before. The next step, what I'd like to see, have a game developer pull this in and allow you to play a multiplayer shooter anyway in the world, right? And it can be paintball.
Crazy.
It can be paintball. It doesn't have to be, real guns. It could be, like just friendly, Mario style, like easygoing stuff, right?
Splatoon stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But goddamn, how fun would it be to be able to go anywhere in the world with your friends and play a multiplayer shooter? Like define your own play space anywhere in the world. Go to your old neighborhood where you grew up and where you used to play, cops and robbers with your friends, and actually play like a little bit of paintball or laser tag in that play space. Go to your neighborhood that you live in now. Go to the Golden Gate Bridge and set up a game of capture the flag on the Golden Gate Bridge. Like the possibilities are literally like limitless, because you'd have the whole world as your playscape.
I like that.
That's the one I want. That's the one I want, and I think it's it's getting closer and closer to pop.
That's going to happen, Briar.
That's amazing. That's a really good idea. And there's one problem with that though. Everyone will just want to play on Nuketown, man. That's everyone will just want to play on Nuketown.
We got the whole goddamn world. You want to go to Nuketown again?
You guys keep voting for Nuketown, man.
Everyone loves Nuketown.
There actually is a game with Google like Earth Maps, and it's actually really genius. They load you into a random area. You have no idea where you are in the world, and a lot of people have been playing it with their Twitch chat. And you basically have to look around, look for signs, cars, license plates. Most of them are blurred out, or even what kind of people are there. You know what I mean? So you're looking around, and every now and then you'll see an image of like a random car driving down the road, like when the Google Earth snapped the image, there happened to be a car driving by. Yeah. And you could be like, that's an American car, that's a European car, so then you know what country you're in. And it's actually a really fun game. There were some people, I can't remember what the hell it's called, but it's genius. It's a lot of fun. Like you'll figure out what state or province you're in, and then you'll see a bridge, and you can actually move around within the Google Earth Maps, so that you can be, okay, there's a bridge here, and up the road there's another bridge. I have to be right here. And the closer that you get to guessing your position is how many points you get, and they progressively get harder, and there's different categories and things like that. Not quite as cool as your idea, but still, it was pretty interesting.
That sounds cool. I'd like
to
just
keep your ear to the ground on Epic's 911 YouTube channel, and he'll let us know if that ever happens, Briar, for sure.
Epic's 911. I recommended him to Briar a little while ago. Him, the Canadian guy, the VR guy.
I'm subscribed to him. He's great.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend. Yeah, I mean, you said that Google Earth VR is not a game as such, but to me, what is a game? A game is, you can play Journey, where there's nothing in it. It's a relative narrative story that you're experiencing. You're playing it through. There's not shooting. There's not, puzzle solving in a conventional way. For me, what Google Earth VR does is give you the escapism that you just cannot get anywhere else. And for me, it's the fantasy. There's nowhere else that I can actually have the power of Superman. So the way you described it and articulated it, you can be in one position or another. I think what you need to convey is the fact that you are traveling there in real time. So you'll be on the ground in New York, and then you just point your arms up at the sky, and you'll fly into the air in real time. And
if you got vertigo or scared of heights issues, stuff like that, it's crazy. Like you walk to the edge of like a tall building, you're looking down, you will get like that sensation.
You can stand on buildings.
Yeah, you fly.
Like
You've got real time, so you can fly as Superman would. I could fly up into the air and stop around, look around me, fly down, fly into the side of buildings. I can go into like, let's say the Pentagon. You can go and land in the middle of the Pentagon and look around it there. You can fly up, fly down the coastline of the Americas, look around it, get up. You go into space and then look at where you want to go in Earth, and just zap down and land in the middle of on London Bridge.
Superman experience.
To me,
it's Google Earth. Yeah. It is just like using Google Earth, except that you have a VR headset on instead of looking at it. Same exact experience. It's beautiful. It's really amazing.
So could I put on a VR headset and fly over and look inside Gary's window? Is that possible? While he's snapping
not while I'm
panties?
playing Galgun. You wouldn't want to see that.
Okay.
No one wants to see that. I don't even want to see myself sometimes. It's...
Okay. Good thought. I may have to check this out then. I may have to keep an eye on our little English muffin. Make sure he's not...
The English muffin.
That's a good idea, Briar. I think I'd keep an eye on that, man.
I'm so happy
I think that may be the future.
I got you guys' thoughts. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts on that. Next topic. No more arcades.
Yeah, so this is kind of a weird transition, but it does kind of go with what we were talking about with, like no internet, could we survive? There was a time before the internet where social gaming was done at a place called an arcade. And what an arcade was a building that housed awesome video games with their own monitor, joysticks, buttons, all this stuff. People would go pump quarters in, and it was the greatest time ever. It was the social gaming watering hole of the 90s and the 80s. There's no more of them, man, and it's really disappointing. And like it was such a magical experience growing up in the 80s and 90s when sometimes some of these games would get an arcade release before they'd get a console port. I remember Mortal Kombat 2 being one of those.
Mortal Monday.
Yeah, right. And I just had such like great memories of like going to the arcade, throwing in a couple quarters, kicking ass of the kids that are twice my age at Mortal Kombat, and staying on for practically a handful of quarters for the entire day. And man, it was just so much fun. And I feel like that experience is gone. If you go to an arcade nowadays, like they're generally like very cheap, chintzy, gimmicky games that,
basketball
and there might be a Galaga machine tucked away in the corner with, 4 inches of dust on it. But, like all the other games, and that's the one that should be getting played,
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's no more arcades anymore. And it's like, unless you live in like, I think it's Massachusetts, Fun Spot. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Is it Massachusetts? Yeah, Fun Spot. It's like the biggest arcade in the country, you know what I mean? And they have tons of arcade machines there. And I actually have a really good friend. I'm actually going to shout him out because you guys should check him out too. His YouTube channel is called Arcade Impossible. And he goes all over the Midwest and gets in contact with people with different machines, and basically shows you that if you put a little time and effort into it, that you don't have to spend $1,000 on these machines. And the last time I asked him how many machines that he had in his basement, he was approaching the 30 plus range of different arcade cabinets in his basement. He said it's about comparable to running like a hot tub as far as the electric bill goes. So you don't have him running all the time. Yeah, you don't have him running all the time. You know what I mean? Like he'll do like parties and stuff, and he has them on like certain breakers so he can turn certain sections on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But dude, he's got it all, man. He's got X-Men, The Simpsons. He's got the Turtles, and he's got.
When I was a single man, I really, really was looking hard for. Remember those sit-down cabinets they used to have at pizza?
Pac-Man.
Yeah, the cocktail tables.
Yeah, the cocktail table.
Yeah.
I wanted one of those in my kitchen as like a little dinette so bad. And I couldn't find one. Oh
man, yeah, but like I had a really great. I cannot remember the name of this game for the life of me, but that's not the important part. The important part of the story I'm about to tell is there was an arcade machine that had a game that was very cryptic, very cryptic. I mean, it could be as cryptic as run around the room counterclockwise 6 times, then clockwise once, and back and forth. So nobody knew how to beat this game. So eventually one day, a random notebook was sitting on the machine. We opened it up, and it told you how to beat the first level. So we did it, and then we figured out how to beat the second level. So we wrote that down in there, and progressively, as time had gone on,
Nice.
people who had never met each other, never
Leaving
conversed,
notes in the book.
figured out how to beat these levels and just wrote it down on a notebook and put it on top of the machine. And you're not going to find that anymore, because it goes back to what we were saying about the internet. With just whip out your phone and see what the Google has to say about it. And
But that activity still happens. It's on a massive scale. Like
true.
Fez was very much what you're describing, right? Is people trying to uncover all the secrets of Fez. We've seen it in Destiny with, Outbreak Prime quests and stuff like that, where, it happens quick, but it's happening, and you definitely can get involved in it. You got to be there for a bunch of hours. But
Yeah,
same
definitely.
activity still happens. It's just happening on instead of notebook.
You're absolutely right, and that's totally cool. Like, I honestly, that had like slipped my mind. So that's cool that you had brought that to light. But I guess, like, do you guys like remember the old school like awesome arcade feeling of a handful of quarters and going in just ready to play every game? And like, what was
I
some
remember
of your
being
greatest...
a kid, right? Walking in, and they're always kind of dark, and there was always the big kids there, like the teenagers, and you're a little kid, and you want to play that Street Fighter 2, so you kind of like you learn the
etiquette,
the rule, the etiquette to put that quarter up on the machine and kind of wait your turn, and then it's your turn, and you've been practicing Street Fighter 2 at home on the Super NES, so you got a lot of time into it, and you actually maybe you do really good, maybe you do really bad. New games come in, and like maybe you're playing some Tekken, maybe you're playing like they had Outrun with like the full car or Sega Rally. They had all sorts of like
Jurassic
the big
Park.
arcade cabinets. What was the one with the motorcycle that leaned over and stuff?
Moto.
Oh, yeah.
Moto GP.
They were cool, man. They were a lot of fun. They still have Dave and Buster's. Do you guys ever
Yes,
go to
they
Dave
do.
and Buster's?
There's one here, yeah.
I've never
Dave
been
and
to one.
Buster's.
No.
It's awesome.
It's like an adult arcade. Like they have a bar, and some of them have laser tag in them. And they have like
Laser tag,
arcades.
Arcades, yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a nice meal.
I don't
a
have
cocktail.
one close to me either. There was supposed to be one that opened up nearby, but they ended up not coming. But when I go to Philadelphia to visit my dad, there's one over there, and it's a pretty cool experience. They have alcohol and video games, and that's two of my favorite things.
You drop the
I'm
hookers in
kind of
the crack.
interested to see what what was the arcade scene like across the pond, Gary, back in the day.
So back in the day, there used to be more. So London, we had something called the Trocadero, which was like a big multi-story arcade in London. Shut down a few years ago because it was just basically sort of Chinese knocked off items, stands, someone trying to sell fish that will eat like sort of growths on your feet, I guess. I don't know what it was. Happy Feet, I think. Some shit. And then just like homeless people. So they kind of shut that down. But Hugo mentioned it. If you go to like seaside resorts, so coastal resorts, you get arcades, but they're not real arcades. They're like they've got like the coin machines, the coin dozers, where they like sweep coins back and forward, and little grab an animal machines, where the little claw comes down. So we've got those all over the coasts, but nothing that's a true gaming area. The problem with the UK, I guess, is that it's such a smaller population. Our entire population now is still less than some of your like cities, or definitely less than your states, the larger places. So in the UK, if you weren't in like London, Manchester, Birmingham, or like in Scotland, maybe Edinburgh, Glasgow, you were in the sticks. You really did have nothing there whatsoever. It's getting a bit better now, but for the UK, it really is more of a regional thing. It's difficult to get a gauge on it. Because when I come to America, you guys have like the best nerd culture and geek. You obviously can tell from my hoodie. You've got stores and things everywhere that serve that. In the UK, we really didn't have that. I think the biggest thing that the UK had was like the Warhammer figures Games Workshop. Like that was big. Started in the UK and that went global. But in terms of gaming, no, very very limited and insular, and even more so now.
So you had named your local arcade, Gary. Mine was called Aladdin's Castle.
Yeah, we had those too.
Yeah, it was at my local mall. I didn't realize.
Mine was called Tons of Fun. Also, the name of my first girlfriend.
Oh, that's
mine was
awesome.
2 tons of fun.
Yeah. But I got a question for you guys. Like, what game? Like, what was like one of your favorite games going back to like, or one of your greatest memories? Like, I had kind of said like one of my greatest memories was
Mortal Kombat
that
2.
game. Well, the game where the people had left the notebook on top, where everyone eventually collectively beat the game. But
you gotta find out what that game was and see if it's available in emulation.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure it out. I'll have to ask my buddy at Arcade Impossible if he possibly knows what I'm talking about. But one of my favorite ones was the X-Men beat 'em up. The 4-player. We had a birthday party. My mom took me to Aladdin's Castle, gave me and my friends this big cup full of tokens, and the first one we went to was that to the X-Men game, and it was one of the first times. Actually, I think it was the first time that me and 4 friends kind of all looked at each other and were like, "We're gonna beat this game. We're gonna beat this game," and just popping them quarters in. You know what I mean? And it was awesome, and I'll probably remember that for the rest of my life. That was a good feeling when we all did that. Like.
The first time I experienced that was with Ninja Turtles, and Briar, you can probably attest to that. It was one of the earlier games. I think it was late 80s, early 90s when that game came out, and it was just amazing. It was the first time we'd ever experienced that kind of visceral activity.
X-Men game, right?
X-Men is very similar. I think
Konami both developed those.
Yep, Konami made them both.
Yep.
But before I give you my favorite game, I wanted to elaborate on this whole topic just a little bit if I can. This is actually our own creation. This is what we've been asking for. And anytime you think of the past, even though it may have been shitty, it's always the good old days. For us now, you think about being a kid, you may have been going through things, but you say, wow, it was the good old days, because there's always something good to remember about it. I remember a term, and I'm sure you guys remember it in the 90s, that everybody was looking for when it came to gaming, and that term was Arcade Perfect. Arcade Perfect was a big deal in the 90s when games started coming out. Super Nintendo had Mortal Kombat 2 and Super Street Fighter 2, Turbo, and all this stuff was coming out. And that term, Arcade Perfect, meant so much to gamers. And when we think about it, when we look back to it, Arcade Perfect was, if you had an Arcade Perfect rendition of a game, you didn't have to go to the arcade anymore. I remember when Mortal Kombat 3 came out on PlayStation 1. I
disagree. And I'll tell you why. Because I went to the arcade for years for fighting games. I think the rise and fall of, the fighting game happened at the arcades. And yes, you could get a really cool version of Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo or Mortal Kombat or Tekken when the PlayStation came out. But the place to play that game was at the arcade. And that, right into college, we had arcade cabinets in our social space in our college. And it was, even then, it was still like, you can play in your dorm room, practice in your dorm room, but you go to the stand-up cabinet to test your skills against everybody else. That was fun.
I can agree with you there, but I still disagree with you personally because it's subjective. See, what we did when these games came out, like Mortal Kombat 3 for PlayStation 1's probably the first real example I ever had of something that was on the cusp of arcade perfection, barring loading times. It was a perfect gameplay rendition of the arcade. We bought the PlayStation 1 arcade stick. So we actually had that at home, and all my friends came over. We didn't have to waste our money at the arcade anymore, and that became the new hangout spot.
Yeah, but all of a sudden it's just your friends as opposed to the public.
But
the competition, you've dwindled the competition down instead of being open to whoever walked up to that fucking arcade machine.
Yeah, I mean,
a scrub might have been the best player you ever saw.
Check it out.
You knew all your friends. You had all your friends ranked, right? You knew who was good, who wasn't.
You knew their moves,
arcade
which
machine,
character.
you had no idea who was walking up to that machine.
Let me explain. I grew up with some of the best fighting game players in the world. Akmal Griffith, who's known as Sid Kid in the tournament world, who's gone to different countries to play these games. We grew up across the street from one another, and we played these games. I tell you guys I'm good at fighting games. I used to challenge people in our old show. Nobody would ever show up. That's what we did. We challenged the best people.
Nobody has the Yobo, man. Can't connect to you.
But this is the same thing that we've been asking for in other aspects of life too. Like we say, Arcade Perfect.
We don't want to pay that $20 a month for Yobo Live.
Yobo Live.
I heard it's peer to peer too.
$19.99 US.
10 hertz tick rate.
But
ticker
for,
eight.
for us, Briar, Gary Wilson, our house at nighttime, my dad just gave it away. He'd go to his room. It was me, my brother, and 5 or 6 of our friends. And it would be me and Lewis and Akmal and Damien, rest his soul. And some of our other friends, D, they'd all be over. We'd play these games to the wee hours of night. I'm talking about people who actually knew infinites, infinite combos. We do Marvel vs. Capcom. We were animals, and that's how we got good in these kind of games. And it negated the need for us to go out and waste more money in the arcades, especially when things like the Dreamcast came out. Dreamcast, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, arcade perfect. No need to go to the arcade.
Fighting games died when they moved online. When the preferred way to play it was online, and I couldn't literally bitch slap the person who just beat me in the game. I was so mad that I'd reach over, bah!
I could reach over and unplug.
Didn't matter if it was on the
controller.
couch and it was my best friend, or if it was somebody I hardly even knew standing next to me at a Street Fighter machine. Man, like the appeal of fighting games just absolutely died for me as soon as the person I was playing against was no longer standing.
Well, look, check it out. You didn't punch people you didn't know in the arcade when they beat you, so that's just nitpicking. For me, God damn it,
it's questionable.
Look, not hard.
For me, for a while, that did kind of die off because I moved away from my friends and my family. Nobody really saw each other. I went up north for a few years, and so whenever I get a game and it had an online functionality, 4, 5, 6 years ago, that online functionality was lacking, and you would get all kinds of latency. And so for me, that was a real issue. That is kind of tapered off at this point. Now games like Tekken 7, I get no latency. I'd love it if you guys got. I'd love it if someone in the comment section bought that game and challenged me, and I put it on my YouTube channel. How about that? But now it's kind of gone away. Now it's like when you play people online, it's almost a 1-to-1 representation of the same feel you would get at an arcade cabinet playing someone right next to you. You don't get that latency.
Same. I don't see them. I don't feel them. Like they're not there with me. It might as well just be a computer I'm fighting. Like in the fighting game genre, it just never felt the same as soon as like the people you were fighting against or like right next to you
disappeared.
Yeah,
when they disappeared, you didn't like it anymore.
It's
but
the
you're
spirit
fine
of
with playing
competition.
Destiny and not seeing people.
What's
like
that?
going into the Crucible and fight going against
I don't know.
people
For some reason, for a shooter, it's different than with a fighting game where it was a much more personal thing because it's a one-on-one fight. Like when I was a kid and I wrestled, I found much more competition in wrestling than I did in team sport because it was a one-on-one fight. There's nobody you could blame if you lost but yourself, and there's nobody who could take credit for your win but yourself. So I just when I was a kid, I really liked. I didn't like team sports. I liked wrestling. I didn't like. Shooters weren't a thing, really. I mean, Doom came out later, but
totally
multiplayer, like competitive gaming was fighting game, basically. And it was a one-on-one thing,
Wish I could have met you back then, Briar, in an arcade. It would have been a fucking battle.
It would have been fun.
It would have been a war.
I was never that good. I just really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
Did you ever
the
get into
spirit of
like Marvel vs.
competition.
Capcom 2, Briar? God, you missed an arcade sensation, man. I was in the arcade for that. Before it came to Dreamcast, I was losing my mind. Oh my goodness.
I went from Street Fighter to Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I kind of skipped Super Street Fighter because it felt like a step
same
back from
thing.
Turbo. And then Tekken and Virtua Fighter. And then I stepped away from Virtua Fighter. I kept going with Tekken.
Tekken's a better game.
Eventually, I think with Tekken 2, I basically stopped.
Tekken 3, you missed it, man. That was a renaissance. Oh,
There's no arcade with Tekken 3 in it. That's why I missed it.
There was an arcade of Tekken 3. What are you talking about?
Not near me, it wasn't. I said arcade near me with Tekken 3.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I was never much of an arcade guy, as you can tell, or a fighter guy. But I do have my first memory of playing a game in a kind of an arcade setting. And I must have been about 5 or 6, I'm going to say. And we were in the store. And I remember distinctly, it was a pre-release version because they used to have them back then, like demo versions of the game of Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis, where you could play as like the raptor or the little guy on a boat, and like a T-Rex would come out and like attack the boat or whatever. Anyway, that was the game. And I was there with my mum, and just me and her. And she said, right, we're going to go home now. It's a long drive. Do we need to use the bathroom now or not? Because I'm going, so you can either stay here and play this or use the bathroom. And I tell you what, I had I knew that I was going to lose like 5 minutes of gaming time, potentially going to the bathroom. I know I entered the store with dry pants. You know, I may not have left with them. But that story stuck in my head, man. Jurassic Park was that good to me that I literally pissed myself to play it for 5 minutes longer in the store.
Jurassic Park, Sega Genesis.
Yeah, man.
Next time you come to the state, just swing by here. We'll play it together. I got a knockoff Sega Genesis though.
I'll bring spare pants.
My mother used to do tennis once a week. I used to have to like basically sit in the lobby at the tennis place, and they had a joust machine, and I spent hours on that joust machine. Oh man,
it was so good.
I love that machine. I would just spend hours and hours there because I was just sitting there waiting for my mother to get done with her tennis. So I'd just be,
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun now when you get friends together and have drinks and do it, because that's what my buddy does. Is he'll do what is it, like Meetup or something like that? He'll do like an online Meetup. He'll just like kinky. Post it out and just have an open basement party. Nice. Just friends, strangers, whatever. He is, dude.
What's the name of that channel?
It's Arcade Impossible on YouTube. Check it out. He's a good guy. He does some funny stuff on there. But
real quick, to answer your question, Wilson, the game that I played the most as a young man that meant the most to me, and me and my brother would spend hours playing it, was Alien vs. Predator, the arcade game. It was a 4-player experience as well, and they also had a 2-player cabinet. Had incredible music, 2 humans and 2 predators destroying these aliens, and I still play it to this day. I play it on emulators and whatnot. And there was an arcade game that had me befuddled for years. It would cost $1 to play. I put my money in and lose it and wonder how I lost it because I didn't understand the dynamic of the game, and that was fucking Dragon's Lair. I'm done.
That game was fucking terrible.
That game wasn't it on like a I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure my buddy has that. It's on a laser disc, and that's one of the like biggest things that go out on those machines nowadays is those laser discs. And there's people that actually manufacture laser discs specifically for that game because it's such a common problem that when you get that cabinet, that laser disc machine just doesn't work and you can't play the game. That game was a cool concept, but you were basically paying to watch a short Disney film. Short Disney film.
With quick time events.
Yeah, the animations were beautiful and stuff like that.
I never got past the very first QuickTime event. I bought
that in the Steam sale for like 60 cents a couple of weeks ago, actually, and now that you recognise the name. I've no intention to play it. I buy games because I see them cheap in the Steam sale, but...
Thank you for hooking me up with that Steam sale last week too, Gary.
Have you looked at those animatees yet?
Yes, I have.
Thank me later, brother.
Oh my God. Are we out of topics? Great. Is that it?
We've got one to close, I believe.
Get it.
It's yours.
I believe it's yours.
What was it?
It's the is there one actor working today that when you see them in a movie or TV show, it becomes an automatic must watch?
Oh, you guys have an actor like this, like a favorite actor or actress? I don't know. Am I supposed to say actress anymore? Or is everybody an actor? You know?
I think they're all actors. Actress diminishes them.
No.
Okay.
They're actresses.
Actor. Yeah. We're going with actor because
actor. That's what I used to call.
What do you guys think? Is there any? Is there somebody out there like that? I know, like when I was younger, Kevin Spacey was big, but he's kind of fallen
still
off.
One of my favorites.
With House of Cards, he's kind of come back, but there's a while there where he was in some stinkers.
As a kid, it was Chris Farley all day. If it had Chris Farley in it, I was watching it. That dude was my hero growing up, and it's still somebody that, even though he's passed away, that I still look up to and think was an awesome individual. As I got a little bit older, the first time I saw Forrest Gump, I wanted to watch everything with Tom Hanks in it. I really like his work.
Still paying benefits too.
Yeah, anytime Forrest Gump is on, you sit down and watch it. Doesn't matter if you missed 10 minutes. Doesn't matter if you missed the first hour of it. Yes. And I sit down and I watch the rest of it because that movie's awesome. And he's got some other really good movies. Like as a kid, he was in a movie called The Burbs. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where he thinks his neighbors are murderers and he's trying to prove it. That shit was so good. And then, Castaway Wilson, my boy's in it. I gotta, so yeah, I love Tom Hanks, man. He's awesome.
He is awesome.
Yeah, good movies.
Okay, for me, I'm gonna. This is off the cuff. There's two, and I like them both a lot. I
pick
love.
one. That's the rules.
God damn it, bro! I'm bending the rules like you
No,
bent the
can't
rules
bend
on mine.
It's the rule. It's
God
one
damn it.
actor. Pick one. It's the fun of it. You have to select one.
The one I'm going to select then, since Briar is being biased here and not letting me bend this shit.
I'm just playing by the rules.
That's bullshit. Okay, is Idris Elba, and he was recently in the very horrible Stephen King adaptation of The Dark Tower, which I never read the books, but
James Bond.
That's what I'm hearing, and he'd be great at it.
Is it real?
It's been out in the ether for a long time. The reason I like Idris Elba is because I've watched him go from being, just a side actor and being a no one in films, to taking the lead. And one of my favorite shows is a BBC show called Luther. I watched all the episodes of that. He's so talented as a character actor, and he was in my favorite TV show of all time, The Office, for a while.
That's right. I forgot he was in that.
He sure Charles Minor. His name was Charles Minor.
The fake one, not the real Office. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, we're talking about the funny
one
with Steve Carell.
Oh, the one that took all the original ideas and then dragged it out for like 45 seasons or so.
The one who had an attractive Pam and a funny Dwight.
Right.
The American one.
And people with teeth.
Yeah, look, I don't watch that show, the whole show, at least 10 times, all through, like all 8 seasons. I don't play when it comes to
the British one. You got 12 episodes. The entire show.
I watched that at least 3 or 4 times.
Conclusion.
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais, he started something great, but I think Steve Carell finished it and made it into the phenomena we know it as today. But yeah, Idris Elba was Charles Minor, I think in season 5, and he played a great role there. And anything he does, I like to see him in all the superhero movies. He's in Thor, and he's just a great actor to me. So I'll follow him wherever he goes.
That's a good pick.
Thank you.
Gary, you got one?
Yeah, so for me, I think it probably says more about me than anything else. In terms of who I pick, I kind of pick them just not because they're a good actor or because, again, the films they do are anything good, but it's just because I like their face. And that's James Franco, right? So James Franco, to me, he just has a likable face. I look at him and I think...
I'm not gonna lie, Gary. You look a little bit like James Franco. I'm wondering.
I'm glad you said that because I wanted to interject there and be like, "This son of a bitch."
You just like to see yourself in movies.
Now, oh shit.
It's the same though. Again, I think it's just. I think I'm just repressing some deep homosexual feelings here because it's the same with Paul Rudd. Again, I don't care what Paul Rudd's in. If I see Paul Rudd's face in a film, I just want to touch it. And that's face. Like, yeah, Paul Rudd, James Franco. Again,
so you like attractive men? Okay, we got you, Gary.
Well, again, have you ever watched a James Franco film and not been fully entertained?
I've been entertained, not for the same reasons, but I've been entertained.
I think he's a likable face.
Pineapple Express is great.
Yeah, dude, are you kidding me?
What is the one where he got his arm caught?
Say what?
Yeah, 127 hours was not his high point. I mean, seeing him in a ditch for a while was not great, but he followed
I thought
up with the
he was
interview.
good in it though. Like he pulled it off.
He was Harry Osborn too in the Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely is, the high point of his career was Pineapple.
Yeah.
No, the interview with Seth Rogen and Kim Jong.
Are you kidding me? I haven't seen that.
Such a good
They
film.
made it for free. It was
it's
like
pretty good, man.
It's so good.
It became
You have
free to
to
play
check it
when they
out.
made it for free. I was like, free to play, free to watch.
The
Keep
best
that
part
shit.
about that movie was before it even got started, they were interviewing Eminem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like talking about coming out as gay. It's like, yeah, it was a metaphor for my gayness and stuff. Yeah, it's so good. So good. It's just a really, I'm not into, like, he did a film recently with Bryan Cranston as well called, what's it called? Something about, is it him or?
Yeah, why him or something like that.
Why him or anyone but him.
Is that good?
It was, again, it's a film with James Franco. So all of them have
That's it.
They have a theme. Again,
or you could refer to it as a film with a guy that looks like Gary Diaz.
Gary Diaz's body double. That's it.
I like his stuff. He was in The End as well. Again, it's Seth Rogen kind of.
Spring Breakers, was he in that? Was that him?
Yes, he had the gold teeth and the cornrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him that was his rough side again. I like that.
Yeah.
Again, anything with James Franco. I think this is probably the post. If I take this down, it's just a shrine of James Franco behind me. I probably shouldn't do that.
Wow.
But yeah,
I knew you were too handsome to do the work that you do. I knew that you were someone's body double or stunt double in a movie. Figured it out.
He wouldn't get hired with that sweater on as a stunt double.
I don't know, man. You put some long hair on him, dude. He could throw him on a set of Pineapple Express. No
Hell yeah,
problem.
he could be a movie star.
Put a
Easy.
joint in his hand, grow some hair out, and
it's just good quality stuff. Again, I don't like to. Some people like really serious films. Like I know, basically like horror films. You like that kind of thing. For me, I just like things that just make me smile. And
question.
For me, his face makes me smile.
On the topic of that, Gary, have you ever seen Shaun of the Dead, and what did you think about it if you have?
I have. I've seen the entire Cornetto trilogy, so that one, The End, and Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
And I really like everything that Simon Pegg and is it Nick? What's his name? Nick something or other. Anyway, the other dude do as a thing. So Shaun of the Dead to me wasn't a horror film. It was a comedy film set around zombies. So if it was a horror film first with comedy elements, I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So I think, what was it called? There was a film with Sam Raimi, Drag Me to the Grave, Bring Me to the Grave.
Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. Which was like a horror comedy, and that was on, and I watched it just because it was there, and I didn't enjoy that in the slightest. But then the other way around, a comedy with zombies, I'll watch it.
I felt like they met somewhere perfectly in the middle, because there were genuine parts of Shaun of the Dead that scared the shit out of me. But there were so many other aspects that had me.
What parts?
I'm not kidding, man. There are certain aspects of that film, the way that these creatures
like, there's so many fucking white people around here.
Nailed it.
Come on, man. You know I get along great with white people.
I know you do. I'm just making a joke. Probably one in poor taste.
They always until I show up.
But funny,
Let me
though.
call and make a reservation. Then I show up and I said, "Do you have a reservation for Beasley?" Is it you, sir? I said, yes, it is. Thought you were someone else. Right this way.
Why is everyone British in your skits?
I don't know. I just like doing it. I think about you all the time, Gary.
I know, man. I know. I think we've bonded.
Yeah.
I could think about you even more now that you look like James Franco.
I didn't even clock that. As I said, there's something about him. Whenever I see him on the TV, I'm instantly in a better mood. You know, it's like, you say it's love when that person comes into your life and you feel, know, that sense of completion. I have that with James Franco.
I feel that when I see you guys. Honestly, I promise. I'm not even being facetious.
Thank you.
I love you, handsome fucking devils.
So, my pick, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one, but it's Nathan Fillion.
Nice.
I love seeing this guy in everything he does. I don't care if it's in Modern Family, if it's in Destiny, if it's in Firefly, if it's in Castle, if it's in Dr. whatever his name was, Sing Along Blog. Like, it doesn't matter what this guy is. And he can't even act, as far as I can tell. He always plays the same fucking character, but I don't care because I love the character. When I see this guy on screen, when I hear this guy's name, I want good things for this person because I just like him.
Do you think he would have made a good Nathan Drake? Is the best question.
If he was younger, I think so. Yeah.
But Nathan Drake is old as hell now, isn't he?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I love the guy. I was gonna say David Tennant, but man, in my heart, it's Nathan Fillion. I fucking love the guy.
This is just a real man love episode, isn't it? Really?
It is. It is.
But it is now.
You just made me realize something that, like, you said you see him on screen and you just want good things for him.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a perfect
Jeff
example.
Bridges,
like, I am going to be the dude, like, 15, 20 years from now. That is going to be me going to the local market store, writing a check for a carton of milk.
I aspire to be the dude. I aspire to live a life free of stress like the dude does, right? Like, that's the beauty of the dude, in my opinion. It's like he just floats through life. He flows through life like water down a stream, right? There's rocks in the way, and he just flows right around them.
I feel that way about Woody Harrelson. Whenever I see him on TV, it lifts my day. He's the star of one of my favorite films of all time, which is a comedy called Kingpin. And I fell in love with him as an actor during that film, and everything that he's in, I have to see it. That would have been my number 2.
He's got range, though. That guy can act.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Like, he's in all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that you do get that feeling though, like you said about good feelings or other feelings there from certain actors. So I got a feeling as well that I just wish this particular actor was my dad, and not just this particular guy, but just like him in this role as well. And Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Kurt Russell, when he came out and he was eager, I was like, can he just be my dad? Can I just go and live with him on that planet? Because he's just like the most warm, infectious smile, like a bit like you actually, Briar. There, not saying you're my dad there, because obviously Kurt Russell's a lot older man, but that kind of bearded, loving, it's wise.
You know that he
warm
was asking his son to like destroy everything, right? Would you?
Not at the beginning. Not right at the beginning. He was just kind of a cool dude at the beginning.
He was young at the beginning. Okay.
Spoilers. Fucking beastly. Spoiler.
Damn it.
God damn.
If you haven't seen that fucking movie, you done fucked up.
In the same movie, Chris Pratt. I fucking love Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Yes. That's Kate's favorite.
Going through, like, right when I first saw him in Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Like, I fucking love this guy. Like, he just plays the innocent.
Talk about range, though.
Guy's so
True
good.
story. Yeah. He was meant to be only on the first season of Parks and Rec. So if you look at his character in the first season, he's really meant to be an anti-hero, that's holding, who was the girlfriend in it?
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
Whoever it is, anyway, the girl he's with at the time.
From
really
The Office,
holding her back throughout the first season. The Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones' daughter,
daughter. Anyway, he's holding her back, and he was meant to be this like drifter kind of boyfriend with the broken legs that was gone. And he was so likable, like you said. Everyone responded to him so well that they wrote him as a kind of a protagonist and someone that people could get behind in moving forward there. That's how much he's liked, is that he completely changed the character and kept him in there.
You had mentioned Kurt Russell, man. Have you seen Big Trouble in Little China?
Oh,
that is his best role ever, man. That is such a good movie. And there was actually a local movie theater. They don't do it anymore, man, but they were showing movies from like the 80s. And
they're remaking that.
Big Trouble in Little China was one of them. And that's like me, Con Man, and Great's like one of our favorite movies of all time. We reference it all the time. And fortunately, Great lives on the other side of the country, so he couldn't make it. But me and Con Man got to go to the movie theater, and it was full of other diehards who were quoting, the little quotes in the movies and stuff. So it was just absolutely perfect. And I figure I should point out that Peanut Kate said, "Wow, what a sausage fest!" in chat with us.
This is what we come here for. I mean, I actually went through a Kurt Russell marathon the other day. It was about a month ago. They had a Kurt Russell marathon on, and I'll tell you what, he was awesome in Overboard. That film was so good with Goldie Hawn. Have you ever seen that, or is it just me?
No, I've seen it.
I love that movie. Love that movie.
Kurt Russell's
again.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He was an actor, child actor.
Was he?
I thought it was a carpenter.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
I know that Harrison Ford was a carpenter as well.
Harrison Ford was, yeah. And
I thought it was Kurt Russell. I thought Kurt Russell was in.
He might be. Let's get on the internet.
IMDb.
The internet.
See,
let's see what the Google has to say.
We can talk about it for the next 10 minutes, or we can look it up and have nothing to say to each other.
Let me just clarify for
So I'll have to get off the James Franco tabs that I've got open. Wait.
What? I want to clarify something for Peanut Kate. I only chose Ben because you're the only woman I love.
Lame.
Yeah.
I got haters in here, baby. I got haters in here.
Is that the best you got?
I ain't got to say shit. She gonna love me regardless. So fuck all of y'all. Shit.
Was she on there when you were talking about the anime titties, or did she miss that bit?
She was there. She was watching. I need her for backup. She has to verify that they are adequate breasts. Yeah. That's what a relationship is all about, Gary. Give and take. You got to be support. Okay? I'm there watching her when she's breastfeeding, making sure nothing suffocates my daughter. Shit.
All right,
that
guys,
just got creepy real quick.
Go to bed. Go to bed.
How many hours have you been awake, Briar?
I don't know.
20 out of 24.
It is bedtime for this guy right here.
Maybe you should start your own TV show and you can be our favorite actor in the new episode, the new season of 24. And it'll be 24 hours of Briar playing Destiny.
I'd watch it.
I did go to a couple photo shoots. Was that a photo?
Oh, man.
Well, I don't know you guys. I'm going to go off and IMDb James Franco for the rest of the evening. But pretty much. myself sorted.
Nothing but
Oh,
love.
man.
Nothing but love, Gary.
He's
Nothing
gonna start
but love.
comparing his own pictures to his. He's gonna be like,
He's
"Are these
gonna do that.
assholes right? Is this, I don't see it."
I'm way better looking than James Franco.
Yeah, right.
Someone in the comments last week said I look like the religious guy from Secular Talk, which I found offensive.
Oh yeah, that guy. Get the fuck out of here.
I know. I was like, I don't see
No,
it.
he's not
You're
religious.
wrecked.
He's
I know. Trash.
He's
J
fake.
something or other. J something. I don't know.
you don't look like him, Gary. That guy looks like a douche.
That makes me feel so much better about the comparison, Basey. Thank you.
Well, he said you don't look like him.
I say you don't look like.
You know what? James Franco looks like you. How
Yeah,
about that?
that's right.
Yeah,
Just-
shit.
he's trying to pull that Gary Diaz look off and
Yeah.
almost
Yeah,
get
Gary was here
almost nailing
first.
it.
He's older, so he's perpetrating on Gary's style.
I saw him. I was standing in line at the supermarket. You know, they have those like magazines with all the celebrities, and James Franco was wearing a diva hoodie. So I mean, he's clearly trying to.
Damn. He's cramping his style, man. You gotta
Yeah.
get
He's
on
doing
Twitter.
black and white movies with Jigglypuff shirt,
You know,
ripping off your shit.
snapping panties on the Vita.
Started calling her the Vita all of a sudden.
Right.
All right, guys. I think that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. EC, what are you up to this week? What you got coming out?
I'll be playing Destiny 2 this week and trying to focus on family, friends, and life. Second to Destiny 2. I want to see how far I can get in Trials of the Nine. I want to get ready to do the raid and get ready for this reset. So we'll see what happens.
Wilson?
I have got engrams to turn in, so I'm gonna be going doing some Destiny 2.
That's so awesome.
I want an Aura Borealis really bad. I want it very bad. Mine's exotic, Gary. You can take your rare and
Yeah, I'm only rare.
you could go take your rare and snap its panties on your Vita. But no, I'm gonna be doing a lot of Destiny 2. I got a lot of trade show stuff to get ready for too, so it's gonna be fun balancing the two.
You should, as a passion project, make some of those Ingrams out of glass and see.
I've been telling him that. I have been telling him that for 2 years, right,
I'd
Wilson?
buy them all.
How long have I known you? It was like the second thing I ever said to you.
Yeah,
You said I make glass work, and I said you should make some engrams.
I know. There's a piece of equipment I got to get to do it that I've been sleeping on. But yeah, one of the first things Briar ever said to me was you should make glass engrams.
Make those Ingrams, man. They would sell. All you do is just create an eBay store, Amazon store. You'd be able to sit back and collect ducats, man.
Here, buy a couple hundred from you myself.
I mean, I would buy them, man.
Yeah, me too.
I'm loving Destiny.
It
Oh, that'd
may
be
or
awesome.
may not contain the rarity within the engram. We're talking vanilla Destiny rules. You may get a purple that turns into a blue. I don't know.
Shit.
Oh, you motherfucker! You were goddamn Rahul. Gary, what are you up to this week?
What am I up to? Well, I'm desperately scraping the barrel to find a team that are kind enough to take me through the raid. So that's going to be happening. Aside from that, not much. Probably a bit more Destiny 2, a lot more James Franco, and maybe a little bit of Vita on the line. But that's
Sounds
my
like a
week
great week.
wrapped up.
Nailed it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. If you got any feedback, let us know. You can get a hold of us on
Revolver Gamescast at gmail.com. Revolver Gamescast at gmail.com.
Yeah. Also, if you do listen to the podcast on Podbean or iTunes, write a review. Doesn't even have to be words. You could just say this is a review and like it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does make blood flow to our genitals. Yeah. Hashtag dicks.
But you can't use like the hashtag, like the number sign. You actually have to just spell out hashtag dicks. That way we know.
That way we know.
That way you know
It's
we're just not being called dicks like usual. This is now hashtag dick.
And this is a personal plea to anyone that listens to this show and knows or has connections to James Franco. Let him know that I do have a fiance and a child, but I am willing to make that sacrifice if he's open to the offer. Anyone just putting it out there, waiting for him to reel it in. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
You put it all on the line.